force, we are the free. Strike the chord, the anthem's clear. We'll fight forever, year by year. Will of steel, our hearts remember. Stand and fight, come what may. We'll crush the darkness of the day. Never back down, never surrender. Never back down, never surrender. An elevated void flame will burn forever.
Back, my beautiful Tater Nation. So good to see you guys. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. Beautiful Tater Nation. So good to see you guys. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. Beautiful Tater Nation. So good to see you guys. Cut that echo out. What the hell was that? Boomer moment. You know, had to have mine for the day. I'm a potato, guys. What can I say? It's Tater Talks Thursdays, and the takes are hot, the mics are on, and the potatoes are fully baked. This is the round table. This is the open panel. This is where bold ideas meet real conversations. No scripts, no safe little sound bites, no flakes. Just organically grown conversations served fresh. And you know us potatoes, we have lots of eyes. We like watching all the interesting things that humans do up top. And tonight we're going to be diving into the big questions, the sharp disagreements, and maybe even a little bit of uncomfortable truths. But we do it with logic, reason, respect, and willingness to actually listen. So pull up a chair, check your ego at the door, and let's dig in, because this is Tater Talks Thursdays. And of course, for our inspiration, roots first. Glory later. You have to grow your roots and get a good foundation, and no matter what you're doing, building or growing plants. As you think, so shall you become. Bruce Lee, of course. What you feed into yourself is what you will get out of yourself. Positivity, you'll get positivity from yourself, of course. And of course, before we begin, this program contains open dialogue and unscripted commentary. Guest participants speak for themselves. Their opinions are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or this channel. Something's up with the mic quality. Okay, I was wondering if that was going to be an issue. Thank you for shouting it out. Let me get in. Where is it? What about that? Does that help any? Hopefully that helped. I appreciate that, Jess. Welcome in, guys. So this program contains open dialogue, an unscripted commentary. The guest participants speak for themselves. Their opinions are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the channel or the host. Conversations may include strong language, conversational perceptives, or emotionally charged positions. The purpose of this format is dialogue, not endorsement. We expect all participants to follow platform terms of service and community guidelines. Personal attacks, threats, or calls for harm will result in removal. Your discretion is advised with the possibility of strong language. And again, I appreciate that shout out, Jess. Glad it's better. Hopefully it works all right with the panel. I'm just trying to get filters down. All right, welcome in, guys. Welcome in. All right, so we had Marcelary first. Hopefully you're still around. Good to see you. I know you've been busy, so I appreciate the engagement whenever I can get it. JB, welcome in. Thank you very much for joining. If you want to join, you're welcome to join the Discord and join the panel. Anybody is welcome, as always. Let me see here. Get this. Pause that music so it's not going on in the background. And who else do we have? I know we have Wi-Fi. Welcome in. Good to see you. Appreciate the engagement. Again, if anybody would like to join the panel, you're welcome to join. Hey, Pharmacat, welcome back. Good to see you. As always, it's good to see you. Appreciate the engagement. And of course, as like I said, just appreciate the shout out for the mic. All right, so it looks like Jay is in the goodness gracious, the panel room. So we'll check to see if she's ready, and we'll just hop right in here real quick. Hey, Jay, can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. All right. So we'll check. Ready, and we'll just hop right in. Got you mute echoing from the stream in the back, just so you know.
Yeah, I muted it.
Okay, cool. All right. So you ready? Okay, I'll hop over
Sure,
here.
just us though right now.
Yeah, it's just us. Usually Leia will be joining, but she probably be a little bit later. I can rift if you don't want to necessarily start right away.
No, whatever you want to do.
All right, fair enough. I just didn't want to leave you hanging in the side room, so
yeah, whichever. I'm just following along.
Sure, no worries. All right, let's see. Kind of curious where everybody is today. Appreciate everybody that's here today for me. Let me see. My fucking internet or something's giving me problems again.
Lovely.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell is going on. I know I've got people, but it doesn't have any viewers in the analytics, and it's giving me an error message. Hopefully it doesn't fall out like it has in the past. All right, so let's see. So let's see, what does JB said? He says, if the debate is going to be bashing men for taking the man's role, then I'd say there's a bunch of pussies around here. Fair enough. All right, so Dave's in the vetting room, so if anybody wants to join, they're welcome to join the Discord. The link is in the description for the Discord. Just join, and then Dave will need to vet you in the vetting room, and then you can join the panel as well. All right, so let's get over here. So we're live now, Jay, and let's go. Let's see. Okay, so we haven't read the. Oh, geez. Haven't read the prompts yet, so let me get in here. Is there any prompt that you were particularly interested in?
Not necessarily. I think they're all good, so.
That's fair. Okay, so for the chat, anybody that's watching, anybody that's curious, the first prompt is going to be, is modern day loneliness the result of personal or systematic problems? And does that answer actually matter? The next one is, men and increasingly women have forgotten how to need people and be dependent upon them. Where has that gone, and how does the suppression of that need manifest itself now? The next one will be, why do we applaud and encourage others to cut people off, but shame them for staying and working it out? Next one is, I don't owe anyone anything. This phrase, is it actually wisdom or is it cope? The next one is, where is the line between understanding someone and excusing them? At what point do we hold them accountable? The next one will be, why do people often perform their opinions instead of genuinely holding them? And then, of course, as always, anybody that wants to join and wants to bring topics to the panel are welcome to. If we get to them, we can get to them. We can always bring them back onto the next panel if we don't. All right. So, Jay, did you say you had one that you were particularly interested in or not? Sorry.
Not necessarily. So
Not
if we want, we can just start at the top.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Again, we need anybody that would like to join. Welcome to join. We always need pushback more than agreement. All right. So the first one is modern day loneliness the result of personal or systematic problems, and does that answer actually matter? So the first part of it is modern day loneliness the result of personal or systematic problems. What do you think on that, James?
Honestly, I think it's a byproduct of some of the other topics that we have. Like, we don't ask for help, we cut people off, we don't have any actual opinions of our own, and thus regurgitate whatever the collective is saying. And all of these things lead us into isolation because we don't actually have anyone that sees us for who we are, and we don't give anyone the chance for us to see them. And then you also have the government and the social constructs telling you that you need safe spaces, isolate for your health, and then obviously the political correctness police. And so I don't know that the reason being personal or systemic really matters overall. It's just kind of a conglomeration of everything.
That's actually kind of a fair point. Welcome in, Leia. Do you have any points on the subject?
No, I'm just listening. I mean, I pretty much agree. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm trying to finish up dinner with these kiddos. Yeah, I pretty much agree. I don't have anything unique and burning to add. But thank you.
Fair. Okay, so Wi-Fi in the chat says more systematic, which I can understand, and like Jess mentioned, it is kind of an all-around kind of thing. We choose whether we follow the system or not to a certain extent. Obviously, there's a lot that we don't have a choice in. We have to do what they tell us to do, but there is a certain level of free agency that we have. So it is more of ourselves, as far as I'm concerned, on that, than it is the system, because again, people want people. People need people around. They have, they crave the interaction, the camaraderie, right? And so you need to, and I'm guilty of this. So this isn't something I'm, telling people, oh, you should be like me. No, you should be better than me. We need to get out there and be personal again. Right. Even inside of our own communities, we need to start going to our neighbors when we have a new neighbor and giving them cookies, that kind of bullshit. They'll probably reject them because they're afraid of them being poisoned or some bullshit like that. But, yeah, Wi-Fi, I understand. The system pursues the masses. And so there is that. But like I said, we do the loneliness idea, right? The modern day loneliness, the result of personal or systematic problems. Yes, is a lot of systematic, but we do also need to take the initiative and start getting out there and doing something about liking each other again. Not sure exactly how to do that, unfortunately. That's why I'm here, looking for the wisdom of the World Wide Web, right? Do we have anything else on that? Sorry, go ahead.
But I kind of have to. I agree with you in, they probably wouldn't accept, like, if you go introduce yourself to your neighbors as the example, and they probably wouldn't accept the cookies or whatnot.
Right.
I agree, and I disagree to a point. I think there are obviously those people out there that are that, and that would be like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. But on the flip side, like you said, everyone is craving attention, or not attention, but they're craving interaction and human connection.
Yeah.
And I think that we would be surprised if we got over the fear that they might reject the cookies, so to speak, and just actually attempted to try. So, like, for example, we have some neighbors next to us that my first introduction to them, I actually asked them if I could graze my livestock across their property because they were having trouble keeping up with their lawn. And I'm like, hey, I need extra property. You need lawn care, so I will fertilize and mow your lawn for you. And, in exchange for, letting me do that.
Yeah.
And then, and they were very, very accommodating. In the last year, another family has moved in between us into another house. And my first introduction to them was the exact same conversation. Hey, can I do this for you? And not only did they accept and allow me to graze across their property, but then they came back and they said, hey, we've got a bunch of lawn equipment that you don't seem to have, as far as like weed eaters and hedge trimmers and things like that. And so they're taking care of a bunch of the stuff that my animals won't eat. And it just became a like community effort between the three neighbors. And none of that would have happened if I had sat back here and said, well, they might not, and they might be upset, or what if I don't graze it right, and then get out of my headspace. None of that would have happened, and I wouldn't have neighbors that have created a community with me.
It's fair, actually, yeah. Well, and
but
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have anything else to say?
That's okay. Nope, you're good.
Okay. Also, just for the chat and anybody watching, I just lowered my bit rate on OBS. So I don't know exactly what that'll do or if that'll change anything on your guys' end. If it does, please let me know. Good or bad, for that matter. Okay, so yeah, JB in the chat says, let lonely be lonely. They made their choice. If they want a good partner, they would stop being selfish. And I said, that's actually a good point. Hey, Trey, appreciate the engagement. Welcome in. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. That's actually fair as well.
I agree.
Yeah. What were you saying at the end, Jay? I'm sorry. I got distracted by the bitrate BS and forgot what you were saying.
I don't know.
Oh, fair.
She was basically saying that she has an amazing community and couple of neighbors. By the way, definitely, sadly, I think you're kind of in the minority there. I really wish that, like, generally, maybe not. People can chime in the chat. Just from my personal experience, I know big or small, regardless of the type of neighborhood, etc., that I've experienced, I don't quite experience neighborliness, I guess you could say, like I used to. Like, I remember having a sense of community when I was younger, like in the places that we lived, and we were closer with the people that lived beside us, or even 4, 5, 7 houses down, in a subdivision, etc.
Right.
Whereas I feel like that's really not the norm anymore, which is kind of sad because,
right,
it was good times.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's amazing that you have that.
Right. That's fair. That is fair. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like we were just talking about, it is rare, and the fact that she has it is awesome. But is it because she reached out? I don't know your situation, Leah, obviously, but I'm not sure. I don't have any real neighbors to be able to reach out to and see what kind of feedback I could get off of them, and then the neighbors that I do have don't speak much English, so it's hard to be able to make a connection there, right? But it goes. Does either one of you know the story about borrowing a jack?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe so.
Okay, so basically, I can't remember it very well. Jay, do you know it very well? Because I can tell it if you don't.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so basically how it goes is there's a gentleman that's driving down the road. His tire goes flat. He gets out of his vehicle, looks for a jack. There's not one there. It's raining outside. Starts muttering to himself. Looks around. There's a light off in the distance, so there's obviously a house there. So he starts trucking along through the mud, the muck, grumbling to himself. Okay, well, why is this guy going to want to help me? What do I have to give to him in return? I'm just some lonely guy. I don't have any money. And he gets to the house and is completely beat himself down to the point where he has no motivation, no gumption to actually ask for the help. And instead, when the guy opens the door, he says, well, you can just keep your jack anyway. And he turns around and leaves. And that's what we call borrowing a jack. Because basically what you've done is you've jumped to the conclusion that this person isn't going to help you, and you don't go forward with your efforts to make it happen. Right. Mm-hmm. And so we want to make sure that we're not necessarily what we call back in the day, back in my day, borrowing a jack. And so we want to make sure that we're starting to try to reach out to our neighbors. Like I say a lot of times, or at least I used to, and I should start to say it again, watch out for your neighbors. You don't know what they're going through. Be kind. Always. Make sure that people around you are taken care of, because that's what Christians are supposed to do. That's what good people are supposed to do, right? You guys have anything on that?
Can I comment on the fact that you told that in a much more condensed version than my husband tells it? It's at least 20 minutes when he tells it.
Well,
which is why I was like, no, you go ahead, because I was going to take up all night.
That's too funny. I don't remember it very well, and so that's why I was like, I don't know all the details, but that's the gist of it, and that gets the point across for sure. So that's fair. Welcome in, Heaven Max. Appreciate the engagement. Pharmacat says, my neighbors and libtards. Luckily, I live on a farm and they're miles away. Wow, you just rub it back in our faces again.
We love that.
Pharmacat. Welcome in, Beatrix. Good to see you. Thank you for the engagement. And again, anybody that's watching is welcome to join the panel. If you haven't been on the panel before, just go through the vetting room. If you've been on the panel before, you might be already have access to the panel room, and you're welcome to join. Wi-Fi says,
whenever we have a second.
Right. Wi-Fi says, I remember asking neighbors for eggs or sugar as a kid, and that's just it. I remember asking for stuff. I remember going over, riding your bike and waving to your neighbors, and everybody knew each other. It took a community was a saying because it took a community, right?
Amen. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, you don't have to be besties with your neighbors, but like when I think about a sense of community, that's exactly what I mean. Like, to ask my neighbors now for like a cup of sugar or something, maybe not a cup of sugar. If it was something that like I truly needed, I might.
Sure.
Maybe. I might not even do it. I might just run to the store. Like, I just don't know how close most people are to their neighbors these days. Like, and I feel like it's not just this type of neighborhood or that type of neighborhood, whether it's like a trailer park or $1 million home. Like, I've experienced, well, maybe not $1 million home, but a very nice home. Pretty much everything in between. And I think it's kind of the same everywhere. Really, if anything, the more affluent people are bigger a-holes, in my experience anyway. But, your mileage may vary. And losing that sense of community, I think, is kind of sad. It's a beautiful thing that you have, Jay, with your neighbors. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, I'm definitely blessed there. Yes.
Right.
Indeed, I totally agree. But I think, Tater, you also have a good point where you say, like, is it the fact that you are not going to ask to borrow the cup of sugar, or to go to church together, or to have your kids play together, or whatever the case may be?
Sure.
Maybe so. Right. I know I can be a bit of a loner, and
me.
I know it's hard to believe, but I know, right? I can be kind of socially awkward. It's easier when it's like, here on the interweb, but in real life, I'm, kind of. I'm an extroverted introvert. That's how I explain it to people, as weird as that might sound. So, it takes a lot out of me to like have social interactions, and so I kind of, So maybe that's my fault.
Yeah, your
and
social.
Then, you get jaded with a couple bad experiences.
Right.
Your
social battery will drain.
And to your point, maybe. Yeah, to your point, Leah, maybe that's part of why I found it a lot easier to go talk to my neighbors, is because I am 100% an extrovert, to the point that my husband and my kids won't even go to the store with me anymore, because I am going to leave with somebody's life story and over the peppers. Right? Like, and so they won't even go to the store anymore.
I am that weird type of person that people feel like they can naturally talk to. And like not even people at the like I mean in situations that are supposed to be quick, like at the fast food checkout line, like or in the window. It's kind of crazy. But somehow to like bigger, more personalized experiences like a neighbor, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it's probably a combination because a lot of people like I mean if you get burnt once or twice with a bad neighbor, makes you not want to mess with neighbors anymore, you know? So it's like probably both.
Well, and that's just it.
Yeah,
is
that makes sense.
I've had a lot of neighbors that I've been burnt by, basically. So back a little bit here. JB asks a question. He says, yes, but what does the Bible say before we get too much further into it? That's actually a good question. Anybody know what the Bible
Love
says?
thy neighbor.
Love thy neighbor, right?
Yeah, I mean,
But
it gives us the
say,
example
like,
of the Good Samaritan.
Right. Yeah. Again, going back to that personal accountability, responsibility, but going back to the self-respect, right? Like I've been kind of trying to push out in my channel here. Hey, Mrs. D, welcome in. Appreciate the engagement. Good to see you. Good to see you. And if anybody doesn't know in the chat, RSTV or Rattlesnake TV is another good channel to check out whenever you have a chance. Good to see you. Appreciate the engagement, Mrs. D.
Hey, Mrs.
Right. So, hey, Scott, welcome in. Haven't seen you in a bit. Good to see you. We as farmers helped other farmers when they had medical emergencies. We harvested their entire crops for free. That's what neighborly love says to do, God's teachings. I appreciate that engagement, and that's absolutely awesome. It's awesome. It's a good community right there.
So I'll take it a step further in the farming situation. What it tells us not to harvest the edges of our fields and to allow the poor and the widows and what to glean from our fields. How many of us do that now? And to be frank, how many of us that should be out there doing the gleaning, if you're poor, if you're a widow, are actually willing to even go out there and glean those edges of the fields?
It's actually a really good point. I remember doing that when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a young spud, going out into the tater fields and going out and gleaning the edges of the potato fields. Because we were that poor. Potatoes are always the savior. That's why I call myself Potato. All right. So, anything else on that, I guess?
Nope.
Fair enough. Farming Cat says, I'm loving my neighbors from afar. Yeah, you're lucky enough to have the ability to love them from afar. A lot of it, well, not me per se. I have a decent length between me and my neighbors, but some of us don't. All right, so we can move on to the next prompt here. All right, so the next one.
Sorry, I was dropping a.
You're good. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was dropping a quick reaction to Mrs. D. She put she dropped your link in Rattlesnake.
Oh, nice.
Discord. If I can English tonight, I am so sorry. So I was giving her a quick reaction.
There. Thank you very much for that, Mrs. D. I appreciate that. So did you have anything to say on that, Leia?
Oh, no, you can go ahead and move on.
Okay, fair enough.
I am ready.
All right, so the next one down is going to be men and increasingly women. So men have been doing this for longer, but it's getting very bad on the women's side as well. Have forgotten how to need people and be dependent upon them. Where has that gone, and how does that suppression of that need manifest itself now? So starting with the first part, we have forgotten, and where has that gone? Any thoughts on that?
Goodness.
Oh my
Could
goodness.
I write an entire book on this?
I know, right?
I'm telling you. One word, feminism. I think you said increasingly women, I think.
Right,
I would
Jay,
argue
that's
even
funny.
more so women. Because of feminism, we have now come to a place where instead of encouraging people to live beautifully... Put that down, please, because it's gonna... Thank you. Instead of encouraging people to, be in a nuclear family, be blessed to have their spouse, husband support them and be able to raise their own children, etc. Instead of that, people tell women, don't be dependent on a man. You better have a spare savings account because, what if, and you let him have complete control over you if you don't have your own job and your own money, and just all these prepare for disaster type, I wouldn't even say advice, it's just negative messaging, propaganda. I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to women. As far as men, more isolationism, possibly. Even going back to the first prompt, not wanting to, ask for help. Or, anybody who's gone on a road trip with a man knows how much they refuse to even just stop and ask for directions, right? I'm just saying. They don't like to ask for help.
That would be actually pretty interesting, Trey. That would be good. Having a girls' night, a woman's night. I have to do that sometime. And see, that's just it.
I think.
Go ahead, Jay. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, we've gotten to, it's not just, unfortunately, men taking an ego, but it is a lot of that. But when you stop on the side of the road, you pose a hazard to yourself, to anybody that you have riding with you. So a lot of the help that we should be offering on the side of the road is we have cell phones, we have this, we have that, we have, but it has gotten so bad that we can't even offer help to a little old lady walking across the street with 4 or 5 bags of groceries or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Because why would we? Go ahead.
Kind of ran this one by my husband and the boys, just for a man's perspective, I guess. And it's not manly for a man.
Thank you again,
to ask for
Mrs.
help.
D. I really appreciate it.
I think the breakdown comes from a generation of men that either didn't have fathers in the house, or the fathers were working so much that they failed to pass the knowledge and the skills on to their sons. And we created a generation of men who legitimately don't know how to do things. Right. And then that generation was shamed by the very generation that failed them because they were failing at being men. And then this produced a generation, which is like your generation, my husband's generation, that attempts to correct the issue, and they do it all themselves just to prove their worth. Yep. And then you put the women in there that we have such high expectations on men to not only, bring in the bacon, so to speak, but also be the Mr. Handyman, like our dads and our granddads, but then also be our emotional support partner. And it's just a recipe for failure set up for the men in our lives.
Right. Yeah, well,
that is such a good point.
And it also goes back to the old age-old saying of men get taught how to treat women and women get taught how to get treated by a man. They don't get treated on, taught how to treat a man.
Yeah.
I think my parents did a decent job. I don't know if I'd say, an amazing job per se, but I think they did a decent job. But again, that old
I think
age.
You turned out all right, Tater.
Well, thanks. I'll take the compliment. I had good parents. But we also have that age-old soul. You know what I mean? That we had that. As much as I hate to say it, you're right. Yeah. As much as I hate to say it, the Mormon religion had a lot to do with how I am today. Right? Why I have the respect that I do. Go ahead.
I could be wrong. Tell me if I am, but don't they encourage like a ridiculous, well, some might consider it ridiculous amount of like independence, even at a super young age? Like we're talking like laundry at 5. Am I wrong on that? I feel like that's what I've been exposed to personally.
You're not wrong. That's about what they like to do. That way, right. Like if anything were to happen, again, we're going back to the age old teachings. Food storage of a couple of years, a year minimum, that kind of thing, right? So, if anything were to happen to your parents, you need to be able to survive on your own, and that is an age-old teaching, right? But it is still kind of taught in the Mormon religion to a certain extent, and that's why I have a lot of respect for them. To be completely honest, again, I'm a Eagle Scout, and I feel very comfortable in my abilities to survive in the wilderness if I were to end up having to.
Oh, sure. And before, when we talked about, I forget what prompt we were talking about, but we discussed people helping others in some way, shape, fashion, or form. And I had brought up the Mormon ladies that had come around my community and had ended up like helping a lady move and helping a lady
That's
escape
okay,
the DV
Beatrix. I don't know if it's
situation.
five.
They
5 is pretty
definitely,
young.
as far as outreach goes in the community, don't love to say it as a Christian, like I wish I saw more Christians doing it, but I've definitely seen quite a few of their groups, clubs, I'm not sure what they're called, like the ladies, do things like that. So I get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, we had young women's, and they did, mending clothes and, and the womanly things, right? Cooking, things like that. I also learned how to cook, how to clean, how to do laundry, mainly because I was going to go on to a mission. I didn't personally, but that's what the Mormon religion teaches you how to do, is to go out for 2 years and essentially go out on a survival trip and beg off of your constituents, essentially. I have a lot of respect for what they do. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if I believe what they're teaching is right, but I have a lot of respect on how they go about doing it, just simply because they are persistent in what they do. Now, how they go about doing it, I should be very careful on how I say I respect, because I've heard a lot of things lately about them going and pestering people at homes, and that's not okay. We should have respect
so
for
can
people.
I ask real quick for
Right.
clarification? Are you talking about specific organizations, or are you talking about these types of clubs in a generality?
Well, we started talking about
Me?
In generality, and then I kind of said that I was Mormon, and I kind of went off that rabbit hole on my own.
Yeah, we didn't start on Mormonism.
Yeah, well, it was
he brought it up because that was.
he did it. He did it.
I have so much contempt towards the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. I have boiling contention.
You want to
let's hear it.
expand on that? Did we lose you? Welcome in, Batman. Appreciate you guys
He's
joining.
talking to you, Heaven.
What up?
And welcome in, Batman.
Yeah, Heaven, are you still with us?
Yeah, I am so sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
On the spectrum, every time I turn a corner right now, he's going through a phase. He thinks that I'm turning, for the park. And when he finds out, like, no, we're in the middle of the highway, he has a mental breakdown. So that's fun.
Fair enough.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Elite Society. Thank you very much, Beatrix.
Maybe not exactly there, but I
really
can
appreciate
it.
you.
I mean, I feel like all kids get it.
Hey, Static Age Show. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Right. I feel like kids have they have
You
a
guys
lot of
don't know
trouble
he has his own
regulating
show as well.
emotions no matter where they're at, and I feel like their disappointment in the car is always at a 10. Like they think we're going to the beach or the indoor play station because we get in the car. I don't know why,
That's
but
awesome,
they always
JB.
assume that's where we're going. And if we're not,
Awesome.
I'm a mean mommy, so I can relate.
Yeah, I gave him a microfiber dust cloth that I just got from Walmart, and he's so happy right now. So
The prompts are in the description below if you would like to check them out.
They feel nice, so I can see why. They feel really nice.
Tried to put them right at the top of the description
But
so
yeah,
you can
no,
see them.
Boy Scouts has gone bad letting there be a female division. That just completely ruined any optics of it, because then it was like girls had their own group,
me
but
too,
then
Scott.
boys weren't even allowed their own group. And then Girl Scouts is just a pyramid scheme to make money from,
I just saw this,
candy bars.
Beatrix. Sorry. LSD.
Okay,
I'm glad
confused.
you're
I
not.
don't mean to interrupt. Are you saying there's, instead of like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, there is now a sect of the Boy Scouts that is girls?
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That is so
You're good.
wild.
You're good, Static
Okay.
Age. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, I tried to
I
put
thought
them in
they
the
had just
description
mixed
this
them.
time.
Did they create two separate Boy Scouts? I thought they had just
Chaos.
mixed the girls and the boys.
Good to see you.
So you would have thought they would have taken the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts and made it into one, but no, Boy Scouts as a corporation had a two-gendered type of system, whereas the Girl Scouts stayed female only.
But I thought the Girl Scouts, like I thought they just joined, like that. or sorry, not that the Girl Scouts,
Yeah,
but
exactly,
that like
Beatrix.
girls could just join the Boy Scouts. So there was boys and girls in Boy Scouts.
We both play roles.
Yes,
Women are good in the
yes.
in the early stage,
Okay,
but
it's not two separate groups in Boy Scouts. It's the girls just being allowed to join the Boy Scouts.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm just
that's
saying
funny.
like two separate groups in the sense of
Right
like
on.
when they go camping and stuff, they do segregate, so at least there's some common sense in it. But yeah.
Oh, that's
it's
good, because
one
that's
group.
why I pulled my kids out of Boy Scouts, is because they weren't segregating at first, and I said that's not happening.
Right? Yeah, for real though. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I
That
would
is
have gone
insane.
through it if it was both men and women. Boys and girls, I shouldn't say men and women. That's it's just so wrong when you say it boys and girls too.
Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
a big
exactly,
fan of
Hatchet
any
Man.
of the send away camps for your kids. It's one thing for like a day camp, but overnighting is just not
Man.
necessary for that
Good to
kind of
see you.
experience.
Yeah,
Personal
exactly.
opinion. You know, I'll take my kids camping. We go with our grandparents, other family members.
Well,
we
sure.
go all over the place. So.
Sure, but it's different when you're not with relatives or people that know you on an intimate level, you know, like deeper, better level, and yeah. That just would be weird. It would be awkward. It would be uncomfortable. It wouldn't be an enjoyable experience. I don't think I would learn what I learned like I did. And maybe I'm ADHD. I don't know. When I was in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher told my mom, "You need to put him on Ritalin. He's ADHD for sure." And my mom was like, "Nah, I don't believe that." And she took me to a counselor, and the counselor tested me and said that I was basically testing on a college level at kindergarten. I don't know how much I believe of that, but long story short, he said, if anything, what a lie. Long story short, he said, if anything, I was being held back. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't ADHD. I was bored, right? And I think that has a lot to do with what the kids are going through nowadays. We just need to basically start slapping kids. I think it was a South Park episode that they're like, here's how you curate ADHD, and they slap the kid upside the back of the head or something like that. I could be wrong. But anyway, moving back to the prompt. Sorry, I went down my little rabbit trail there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I may be overly protective, but I just go through the logical train of thought of like predators will be where they have access to children. So that's why you saw the issue with the Catholic Church in the 90s. That's why you see the issue with public schools and teachers today. And I just, you know, my gut feeling says, well, you know, those send away camps are kind of in that
Do you
same
guys
category.
not know of the accusations of the Boy Scouts? Like, there's been tons of accusations and cases proving like
lately
bad things in the Boy Scouts. All through the 90s, early 2000s, recently in the past like 2 or 3 years, there was a giant case against the whole organization for it.
Yeah, there was like a class action type thing a couple years ago, wasn't there?
That's wild.
Yeah, huge deal. Like, yeah, and it makes sense. It's like, exactly what you guys said. I'm not letting my kids stay overnight with some strangers. I get it's one thing if you go with them, but when I grew up, I knew a lot of kids who were in Boy Scouts going with strangers.
Sure, yeah.
Off to those camping trips, off to learn all the scouting stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of weird, dude. I don't know any of these cats. Like, I know one of your guys' dads. That's it. The rest of them are complete stranger.
Seriously, Beatrix.
Yeah, like once my son can beat me in a fight or a wrestling match or something like that, then I'll
that's different.
You go for it, you know?
Fair enough.
No, I get that, but I'm talking about like 5th, 6th graders. And parents are just like, all right, bye, have a good weekend. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Well, and there's an issue there, right? As you go from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts.
Yeah, static age. Yeah.
At Cub Scouts, your parents do go with you. In Boy Scouts, your parents don't. But they still feel like, oh, it's the same safety of the same organization. And it's like, not really the same organization anymore.
Not the real. Yeah, right.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, I think anything like that is kind of rampant for, well, kind of like Heaven said, is they're going to go where the kids are. So it's one of those things where it's, you know, I would love to think that it's perfect and has no schmedditors, but
where in that title says it doesn't say that, right?
Mudigos, if you will. in there, unfortunately. And I'm really overprotective of my kids as well.
Welcome in.
And where they go, I only let them stay.
Right. Welcome in, Butler.
Go ahead.
General Butler. Do you have anything to say on this subject? Appreciate the engagement.
I'd like to be caught up on the subject just briefly so I can comment because I'm not exactly sure what you guys are talking about.
Sure. No worries. No worries. I just like to welcome people in, make sure that they have the right to speak, and make sure that your settings are good before I just leave you to the wolves. But welcome in. I appreciate the engagement, buddy. Did anybody else have anything to say on that?
No, I was just going to say I've been here for 10 minutes. I'm not even sure what the prompt is anymore.
I know we kind of meander from the prompt quite often. Let's see. We were on, I believe,
Number
two. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Jay. So men and increasingly women have forgotten how to need people and be dependent upon them. Where has that gone? Is where we're starting with here.
I have a good idea. Can I speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So what we have is a deterioration of what gender roles are for men and women in the United States. That fundamentally was undermined by the second wave of feminism that was pretty much kicked over in the 60s. Going forward, we now have the third wave of feminism, which has completely destroyed the, we'll say, feminine and masculine roles within our society with Xers, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. Alpha and Z, I would say, are the product of the, we'll say,
welcome in. Good to see you,
undermining of like the demasculinization of men or boys in our public school systems, and the females being told that they are perfect in every aspect. So that gives them a full sense of confidence.
As always, appreciate what you do for us, but
in my opinion, confidently incompetent, if that makes sense. And I've been watching this as a growing trend over the last, say, 25, 30 years. And I typically have kept my mouth shut because no one wants to engage in these types of conversations until recently, in the last, say, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, he is
gaining more and more traction. And Batman told me I should let you guys know my background. I went to school for psych and social. I only have a 4-year degree, but I worked for the state of Massachusetts in the child care industry. And my primary focus was children in state care. I was starting a residential program.
It was good to see you, Farmer Cat. Take care of yourself.
That was eye-opening.
Thank you very much for the engagement.
But this is where I'm coming from.
Hey, Homestead, good to see you.
My origins are,
I can imagine, it's that time of year.
Psychology, sociology, and that I've always kind of kept a wary eye out for like the trends within our society, and more so like with the really dysfunctional rise of our society, where the women, even though their feminine role within the society is to have children and to basically be a homemaker and to take care of their children, you see a growing rise of women hold utter contempt for their domestic duties, even for themselves while they live alone, and that being in a relationship with a man and performing those domestic roles is absolutely like slavery. I mean, you see TikTok after TikTok and like YouTube videos and shorts of women expressing that exact thing, and it's mind-blowing. And then on the other side of things, on the masculine end, there's very few like TikToks or YouTube shorts or like social media that's lambasting women for having these contemptuous like attitudes towards the masculine side of the species. It's just mind-blowing. I mean, is anything that I've said here like way off the mark? Or and I'm
that's what I was saying.
No, yeah,
okay, I completely agree.
Yeah, no, I let
Yeah,
you spit
and-
facts for a second there, brother. You were definitely saying how it was, man. So I didn't want to interrupt you.
All right.
I mean,
well,
I will
I would love
disagree
to
with
have a
one thing,
conversation.
and I think
Go
the
ahead.
issue is a vanity issue, right? Like,
Sure.
even the ones that do follow the proper gender roles, they're not following it for the correct reasons. It's not honorable. It's not righteousness. It's vain, right? So you have people like Clavicular and a lot of bodybuilding type people. You have Andrew Tate, right? You have all of these very masculine, but in an unhealthy way type of characters, right?
Well, I'll speak to that too. So I've looked at Tate and a couple of other, we'll say, masculine role
Hey, Neon.
models for the
Think you're new.
Gen
Welcome
Z
in.
and alphas. And
Appreciate the engagement.
I
Hope to
want to
keep you
say,
around.
yep, they verge on dysfunction, but I think what's happening is it's an overcompensation because of the lack of any fundamental, like, courtesy that pays any respect to the masculine in our society. They're constantly saying that any kind of masculine, like, behaviors is toxic. This is all coming out of the side of feminism, which is being funded, believe it or not, by our own government. The Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, Mellon Foundation, dude, like all these, like if you look at PBS and all the founders of the PBS channels, well, they're the very same money that's basically funding these like feminist agendas and, you know, this equal rights, DEI. DEI in and of itself is hindering
Right,
society
What?
because it's basically
No,
what I
no,
was saying
not
before.
304.
It's competent incompetence, where people
I think she was
are
talking
given
about mass,
tasks and
going to
duties
mass.
that they're not
I could be wrong,
competently
though.
able
Chaos, what are you
to
saying?
like carry out, and that's on both sides of the gender as well, but more so it's catered to women, and you see the rise of this. Like, I saw the rise of HR in corporate America, and right away I identified it for what it was, and it was basically the destruction of meritocracy in America without question. And you can see the fundamental fallout of that. Look what's happened, where for instance, the female job rate to male job rate in corporate America, yep, it's still less than men, but everywhere else it isn't. Women outperform men in the job market. And how is that even friggin' possible if we're like based in reality, right? Like you're competent to hold the position, you have the skill sets to do it, you have the education to back it up,
Right, Marcy?
and yet it's
Sounds
still
like maybe
lopsided, and it's
Boston,
growing
maybe?
lopsided more and more every day. And then you hear of these like groups, men going their own way, right? Where or they're incels, right? Like all of these new terms that are being bandied about
That's right,
in the
Neon.
zeitgeist to kind of
For the
describe what's
win.
going on with the male sector of our society. I mean, I'm being verbose here, and I'm taking over a little bit, but I'm pissed, man. I'm 62 years old. I have to deal with my nephews and like men that are in their 20s that are completely like dumbfounded. They don't know they don't even know how to proceed because everything is unstable. There's nothing for them foundationally to stand on to take a stand.
Fair enough.
Do you guys see
Fair
this?
I mean, I'm going to push back on a couple things that you said. One of them is the HR. There's a lot more nuance to that. Everyone these days acts like it's some evil entity within corporations. But one of my buddies, he's actually
Indeed,
an accountant on Wall Street for,
Indeed.
bankers and massive corporations, right? Like he's dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars every day kind of thing. And I was talking to him about the whole HR thing, and I had the same thought process you did. And he said, no, it's a compliance thing. It makes sure people are following the handbook. It avoids litigations and lawsuits. It helps you find the people that are underperforming or barely skating by. So for a variety of financial reasons, it's actually financially positive to have an HR department rather than a larger legal team. Plus, HR is easier to hire and cheaper than lawyers. So there's a lot of reasons why it's beneficial. And then I'd say that there are some markets where women should be saturated in, right? So like teaching, nursing, early development education, things like that. Absolutely, that's where we should see an oversaturation. But again, that's more towards the gender roles, right?
All right. Can I speak to, all right, the oversaturation of female teachers in the U.S. School systems, right? So I looked at that when I was opening up my residential program, and I found that um, it, it there's a reason why, like, you don't even see a male teacher in any public school systems, and if you do, it's extremely rare between the age of kindergarten to, say, 8th grade, 9th grade. There's very few teachers in your middle schools that are males, and so why is that? Like, so let's look at that as like a preponderance on the impact of how children are like bonding to their teachers, right? So a kid that's in first grade will bond with his female teacher because she represents a feminine energy and feminine role in his life. So there's a bonding that takes place. Also, if you've noticed, it's now coming to light, especially during COVID. And I was blown away because I myself sat in on some of these Zoom classroom calls, right? And what a history teacher was teaching had nothing to do with history. It was all about gender roles and transsexuals and like all of these issues that shouldn't even be in a 7th or 8th grade classroom, right? And yeah. It really kind of like blew my mind, like, what's going on here? Right. So then I started to look at it a little bit closer and I'm like, oh, so I see. So what's happening is our public school systems are becoming the surrogate parents to our children. Therefore, they're going to have a major impact on how that child develops psychologically, their belief sets, how they even like have self-control over their own moods, believe it or not. And you can see the rise within our like children, like in the Gen Alpha and Gen Z class especially. They have no self-control. They're in the news. You can see it all the time where these massive teen riots are taking place all over the country. And it just happened the other day, right, over the holiday weekend. I mean,
Moorhead,
dude, you gotta
appreciate
ask
the engagement.
yourself, what is
Would
actually
like
going on in our public school systems? And then
Not
now
sure what that is.
with the lack of like male leadership and role models within our schools, well, isn't no wonder why we're having so many kids that
Scott, I agree with that.
Like a dependency on SSRIs, or they start talking in terms of their psychological statuses, where even for a while, I think there was a trend where being, what do you call it, borderline personality disorders, or...
You mind if I cut you off real quick?
Go ahead.
Not to be rude or anything, but...
No, you're not being rude.
There's a possibility that, and I do believe there's a lot of merit to what you're saying, but I also believe...
Did we lose
you just cut off.
Sorry, I was just saying that, like, you may be seeing points on a graph and saying, oh, well, therefore correlation, because I can draw a line, when it might not actually be correlated or causatory, right? But an example of that is early education, pre-K all the way up to 6th grade, you actually need a degree in early education teaching, whereas 7th grade up, you don't need a degree. And so that actually pushes to the college, because a lot of, like, if you have certain accounting qualities and stuff like that, you could be a 7th grade math teacher without actually having a teaching degree. So you can just be hired based off of your merit. And that's why you see more men 7th grade and up, because they actually don't need to go to school for the degree, and they tend to be hired more on merit based or like occupations, know.
There's a whole
maybe I don't want to know now.
Said, and I know this to be true because
I'll have
back
to figure
in
it out.
'98 when I was
give her a hard
my
time or something. I don't know.
Preliminaries for my residential program, I wanted to have an educational component to the program, so I contacted my state educational board, and it's all based on the school superintendent
Very true,
in the given
Beatrix.
city, town, or county in which the
I don't know.
school is
My
located.
worldview is still kind of developing.
If the school superintendent requires that you have at least a bachelor's in education, it doesn't matter male or female, you have to have a bachelor's of education even to apply for the job. That was true, what you said, that was true back in the 80s and maybe even possibly into the early 90s. Also, it could be true as well in like states like
just
that don't
reminder,
have
anybody can join.
as big a budget for
Just need to
education,
join the
such
Discord.
as like in the Northeast or all over the Eastern Seaboard for that matter, in certain areas in the West Coast as well. Now, I don't know about like Idaho or Montana or like, Iowa or something like that, Mississippi. They might have lower standards that they adhere to, but that's all set by their state educational boards. And I think fundamentally how that whole system works anyways is through the federal Department of Education, they have what they call block grants for school construction. And what they do is, as that grant program is spread throughout the country, and I know it's in every state in the country, they make the state school boards adhere to certain curriculums for education and standards of educators. So I don't think that they allow that anymore, where you don't have a degree to be an educator in a local school, because that would break or violate the contract for the grant.
No, yeah.
And
when I said that, I was just meaning about additional training. So, like in the United States, you need an educational degree of an associate's, right? That's like required K through 12. But there is something called a CDA, which is required for early education teaching, right? So that's what I was just saying, is like that actual CDA requirement for early education and almost universally across all schools. Most women go into that in college, right? So, whereas the other one, you can get a minor in it. You don't even need an associate's in essence, right?
Again, I think that falls to the superintendent of schools that's in the town, city, or county. I think that it does vary. It could be an associate's degree, maybe in some states, but I know here in Massachusetts, they require a 4-year certificate in education. And then also, I know what you're talking about, the certified teaching certificates for special ed. That's a rising component within the educational system.
It's a Child Development Association degree, right? That's not for special needs. That's just for early education. So like elementary school, pre-K, anything underneath 7th grade.
Okay.
Right, and I understand what you're saying. Like, yes, it does vary district to school district, state to state. There are obviously federal requirements, but every state has their own additional or, baseline or whatever have you. But I was just throwing that nuance out there, that because that's prominent in many states, that may skew the numbers as to why. Because
not having to have an education degree to teach would be a little.
That might also lead to it, instead of it just being like a hiring problem, right? Like it may just be before that in the education problem.
Yeah, no, I agree.
College is such a scam nowadays.
And my state was accredited when I was in school, in high school, back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then going forward into college. We had a very high standard of education in Massachusetts, one of the best in the country. Now, all of our numbers have turned like upside down. And this is all based on the fact that they introduced like, what was it? Common Core? No, was it Common Core?
Yeah, Common Core and Core 40 was universal,
Yeah, MCAST and ComCore, were the two big leaders of the dissection and disassembly of the educational system in America. The core principle of these programs wasn't to raise the standard of education, but to lower the standard of education, so those that struggled to meet even the minimum criteria at the time were basically now, having the kids that excelled were having to be subjected to these lowest standards of education, and that they were basically chastised if they spoke out against the educational curriculum as well. And this is like reported to me firsthand, not only from my nephews, but their friends and other people I've met, their children were saying pretty much the same thing. And it's like, why bother, right? So there are a lot of nuances and like elements to this, and like it's very in depth. We could do like hours just talking about the school systems and their impact on our society, and how like over the decades it seems like it's not getting better, man. And even though they keep selling these ideas that, oh, if we do this, the things are going to get better in our educational systems, and our kids are going to, want to learn and this and that and the other thing. It's going to be easy for them. It's not. It's complete opposite. I don't know. And I made comparisons like when I was in school, I saw this trend happening, and I was making comparisons then with like Japanese educational systems, and educational systems in other places in the world. And part of the reason why I think America is lagging behind is because there's absolutely no, we'll say, structure to our school systems. And then you have all this messaging, especially in our social media in the last couple of decades, of why bother? Like, you're so special, you don't really need to try. You're confident and you're a strong person. And this is to our females. And our males are being sent the total opposite, where you're toxic, and the girls basically fortify that messaging by treating them like, dog meat, right? Like, it's remarkable. And it's like, until our leadership, until people that have like really an impact socially on a national level, and we start talking about this in a responsible adult manner, that we don't go into virtual signaling and woke messaging, because all of that is just mind rot, and it doesn't matter what civilization it falls into. And that can be said because globally you're seeing exactly the same results, especially in the West, all throughout Europe and anywhere that like Western civilization is the standard. We're seeing complete reversal of like the functionality of those societies. And it's all, I believe, predicated on the fact that they've taken away any of the structure that made the society what it was.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I will disagree on wokeism, and this is usually a red button for a lot of people on wanting to disagree with me. But I believe it's men's fault, right? It's weak men that caused this entire situation. People try and blame like women and being liberal, and it's like, no. In my position, it's a man's job to have authority. We had authority, and with that, toxic things happen. So the onus is on the men who either relinquished authority or used their authority in,
Right.
non-righteous ways. So,
well, do you
I
know
agree
that?
with you, Evan Max, but that is going to get so much shade thrown at you. But I agree with you 100%.
Well,
I
he's
know,
not
yeah.
wrong. He's not wrong. But what he is, he's looking at basically another type of like psychological mind op. Okay. And what I mean by that is, so you said that by men's virtue, our virtuous nature, that we allowed women to get the vote, that we allowed women to have an equal stake in our society, right? And that it's our own fault through our own virtuous act that this is the result of that? Or what we did was right, but there were elements within our society that wanted to use that virtue or that decision making by the leadership of the day to like make women allow women to be equal, to have say, to hold bank accounts, to like take their rightful place equally within our society. And you just said that because of that, we're stupid or that we failed our own society. How is that possible?
Well, if I may, just for 2 seconds, I think there's also, and I know, like, we want to get a tinfoil hat out here as many times that I talk, right? But I think there's a certain truth to what you're saying, and it kind of goes back to the same kind of idea with the Common Core and the No Child Left Behind in the schools. These systems that we are seeing
I added you, Static
continuously
Age.
kind of having a bigger agenda.
Not sure what's
Same
going
as
on, but I
feminism,
added you.
right? I would argue one of the biggest reasons they wanted women
Hey,
in the
Cleaner
workforce.
409,
Well,
good
not,
to
I
see
would
you,
argue,
man.
I think it's a proven fact by now that it's because they wanted
You're
to
welcome to
double
join if you'd
the
like.
tax dollars that they were scheming from people, right? So there's always also a possibility of some bigger, shadow agenda, as crazy as that might sound.
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, I think there are elements to our society that the average pleb, and I'm included, are completely and utterly unaware of. But there seems to be, again, over the last, say, 20 or 30 years, a focus on what is actually happening. So the plebs are noticing that there's something off.
Pretty much, yep.
Our leadership is constantly saying, with this new election cycle, everything's going to be better, and we're going to get America back. Let's build back better, right? The Biden administration mantra, right? But are we? What's happening? Our cities are crumbling. Our infrastructure is literally just disintegrating. Nothing new. All right. If you look at how the United States, what made people come together was a common vision, right? There was a common outlook for our people, and that's gone. During the 20s and 30s, there was an effort made by the leadership of the country to create a common vision for the country. And from that was built what we have today, right? But it was functional. And then something happened. Something along the way changed. And a lot of people point at like what happened right after World War II as basically this conjunction of or divergence of what it meant to be an American and what was going forward that America was becoming. Like it separated itself. So in a country that prides itself on self-rule, well, we don't do so much self-rule. We're pretty much, our elections are sham. Like, people don't believe in the government. People think that most times they're, wasting their time at the ballot box. Why is that? And how did that become so pervasive within the fundamental outlook of the society, right?
Right. Yeah.
This is not by accident.
Yep.
It's by design.
Yep. Pretty much everything that
So,
we
General, real quick, I
with.
just want to throw out there that as of right now, you are a celebrity to my children. We just got home, and I just turned on the TV, and for some reason, YouTube came on, and he immediately clicked on the stream, and he's like, "Whoa! I hear him on your phone." And there, whoa!
Cool. Well, we need to start talking across our generations.
Yep.
They separated us by giving us labels for our generation. So I'm a boomer, and then there's the Xers, and then there's the millennials, and so forth and so on. Well, that's done by design. That has nothing to do with identification.
Yeah, it's over and done with. They got their end.
Is that's how
Why would they
identify,
fix it?
right? And what does that do? Isolates us from one another. Everybody hates the boomers. The boomers are the reason why everything sucks. Really?
Right.
I mean, there is a good chunk of boomers that cause a lot of our problems. So
Shots fired.
Actually, no, I'm not going to disagree with that because there's a lot of people within my peer group, and I'm going to say 5 years my junior, 5 years my senior, and within that 10-year period of time, I can see exactly why the other generations are saying what they're saying about my generation, and I've seen it and felt it myself. Yeah.
Right, but I would absolutely agree with the notion that you should not give like capital punishment to an entire group because they are part of a group, right? You have to take it on an individual basis, right? So like I may jokingly blame boomers, but it's really specific boomers, right, that I blame.
Yeah. I agree with that. Welcome in, Static Age. Making sure you can speak and everything's good on your end, or my end of your end.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
I don't have anything to say right this second,
Okay.
but these guys are cooking, so.
Okay, no worries.
You better talk.
I just wanted to make sure that you were able to talk and everything was good. Welcome in, appreciate it. Yeah, you guys can go back to it. We kind of gotten off onto feminism and education. Do we want to stay on that, or do we want to go back to the prompt? What do you guys think?
So that's what I was kind of trying to steer back towards, was the prompt about, I believe, I put the onus on men, right? At the end of the day, whether that's a religious or political sense, I blame men, and even of my generation. And I would say that it took a lot of studying and research and digging to actually change my opinion, because otherwise I'd be like almost any other pro Smithmortian, gen.
I understand, Cleaner, but like I said, you're welcome to join
anymore. But
I'd like to hear your opinion.
Makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. The biggest thing is I do to a certain extent agree. Like I was mentioning, the first men have kind of been this way for a bit, had that ego of I don't need nobody, but we've never really said we don't need any women, where women are saying we don't need no man. But at this point in time, what are we as men supposed to do if women won't listen to us?
I mean, do you want a brutal answer or a political answer?
Feel free to give both.
So politically, it's all about propaganda, right? Like the propaganda that we are equal has been spread quite nationally for a long time, and an easy propaganda campaign would actually put more women wanting the desire of raising families, which I think would be healthy for society and people overall. But the brutal way is men don't have to listen to women. Like, I know that's mean, but we don't when it comes to political things, right? Like, we just do. And that may sound mean, but yeah.
No, I agree.
I don't think that sounds mean at all.
I'm
fair.
Part of the reason why I'm here is to say the things that people don't want to say, I guess. I'm a potato that used to be probably the simp of all simps. I don't know. I spent 8 years with a woman that, I don't know. I can't say that I'm any worse than anybody else. I'm not better than anybody else because I'm worse, right? But long story short, I spent 8 years with a girl that broke up with me every other day, and I kept her around, right? And I loved her. Right? I'm not going to say that I was like out of I didn't want to. I loved her, but long story short, I did things for her that I shouldn't have, and I wasted a lot of fucking time because of it. So I'm here to basically say the things that we don't want to say, and basically, women, sit the fuck down, find your place so that men can take back the reins and actually control the ship like we used to. May sound mean, but
time.
Right?
What was that? Sorry.
That would just be I was agreeing with her like that. Yeah, that would be so nice if we could just, we're supposed to be helpmates. We're supposed to be there to offer suggestions, offer opinions, to be a sounding board. But when it boils down to it, the men are supposed to be the ones making the decisions. And scripturally speaking, when we get down to it in the end, they're the ones that are going to be held accountable for their households. That's why there's such a responsibility put on them. And we need to sit down and shut up, because if we screw our husbands up, they're the ones that take the fall for it.
We can screw up our salvation.
Yeah.
I was just having that discussion with a very feminist lady the other day, and she was really angry with me about it. And I'm like, look, I don't know where. Well, I do know where. It's feminist propaganda and BS. We got this idea that
point,
somehow taking on all the responsibilities of men. See, this is the lie that feminism doesn't like to tell, because they expect women, big boss babe, modern feminist women, to accept all the responsibilities of a man as well and go to work, pay their own bills, just, get credit scores and careers and all of this, and, all of the normal things that, now men and women do. And then also on top of that, at some point, also have a family. And so they're also expected to come home and cook and clean, or, also they want to feminize men so that it's 50-50, not, which is a whole nother conversation. But they want women to masculinize and somehow also become like a superhuman that can do both things. And I tried to ride that line after I had my first kid. I was still working until I had my second child, my daughter. And that was one of the roughest, times of my life. It wasn't because I had some, rocket science job or anything or hard manual labor. It was just I was doing the most, and it was my choice. Not like I was forced to.
I respect that,
I
Marcelary.
felt kind of pressure to.
You
like,
ask questions and they start to question themselves.
To do, right? And it was just
I'm guilty of it.
Draining and taxing, and it was time away from my baby, and I felt guilty all the time. And I don't understand why women, like I'm lucky and I'm blessed that I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like I'm beyond fantastically happy with my life. Like it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but like me not having to have all the stress of going to work, dealing with coworkers and all the drama that inevitably comes, especially if you're working with women. No offense, fellow women,
Right.
and the public as well, and dealing with Karens, and then having to come home and do all the struggles that come with all the decision making. Like I don't have to deal with any of that. I got to take care of my home, my kids. I take very good care of my man. And
this is also fair.
It. And I don't know why women would choose to be the man and the woman when they could just chill out. And again, I'm not saying that it's not work, but a different kind of work, a work we're made for. So it's naturally more easy for us.
Right. And it's hard though, because there's also an aspect of, back in the day when women didn't have any rights, it's
base Marcelary.
What happens if your spouse dies? So like there's a trade-off there as well, because if my spouse was to die, I know that I can go get a job, I can support my household, I can move forward, and these are things that are important because society as a whole, because of the shifts that we've done, there's no help for a widow, a single mom, or orphans, or there's very minimal assistance out there in a way that can provide for them and allow them to continue to be at home and continue to be the feminine, wifely type, duties when a spouse is gone. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's good that we can get work, but we've created this, where we have to go to work or we have to live very, very small and simply, there's nothing wrong with that. I thoroughly enjoy living a small and simple life versus having to work my life away. Amen. So because it's been like I worked 2 and 3 jobs.
I agree with that.
The last 20
MF
years,
guy
I
for
completely missed my children growing up. And now that my children are out of the house, now I get to be at home, and that it's so bittersweet because it's like, crap. I wanted to be there for them. know.
I'm sorry, but I got to push
There's
back
so
on
much
that.
mom
It is
guilt.
completely female choice, though. That I hate the idea that we have to struggle on one income, or we both have to work to be comfortable, and it's just statistically not true, right? We have the most ability to change classes in this country and everything, right? So
if they can, I'm sure.
Even anecdotally.
Wait, is that what she said?
I know I would if I could.
That's not what I heard. I didn't hear that.
I must have misunderstood. I thought she was saying, that we have to have 2 incomes to be able to provide, and so if your spouse dies, you're kind of left hanging dry.
No, what I meant by that is if
that would still only be one income.
My situation, earliest situation, then we're we're stay at home wives. If our spouses were to
thanks
die,
for the engagement, MF guy.
Oh shoot!
I hope to keep you around. Thank you very much for the engagement. Have a good night, man. God bless.
Where we weren't allowed to go to work, we weren't allowed to do those things, we weren't allowed to have skills and things like that. Then what would we do as stay-at-home, truly feminine wives who weren't allowed to go to work back in the day, kind of thing?
I mean, you sell the house, you get a smaller home, and you look towards the church community, right? Is what my answer would be, and that still is possible today, right? So,
but does the church community still support that? Because I was raised in church, and my church community did not support the widows and the orphans, and if the money wasn't going into the church building, it wasn't supporting us. My community now is completely different. We support the widows, and that's a completely different, but that is not the norm.
Well, and two, if I may, even before like
You're
feminism
listening. Thanks for joining,
and
Batman.
this whole
Hope you have a good night,
wanting
man.
to make women part of the workforce and egalitarianism that we see, right? Even before that, these jobs, like the idea that women never had quote unquote normal jobs or 9 to 5s is just a complete myth, right? A lot of times they had jobs like nurses or teachers, etc., and they only had them for a little bit, and then say when they were ready to start a family, they would pass those jobs on to someone else. It was just kind of understood when you got married and or when you got pregnant that you would be quitting that job because it's kind of how they handled it in society, right? But another group of people that those types of jobs would go to would be the widows in society, or older wives like matrons who had raised their children and they were off and had their own families who wanted to take on a job for fulfillment or more responsibility or what have you, right? But I agree with the point you were going toward, Heaven, because I've made that point myself. Me and Grid One had a back and forth for like I had to be like 40 or 45 minutes one day actually on that exact subject about how basically you don't need two incomes. I won't go into the whole thing we went into, but that was the entire thing because I know all about sacrifice, right? And couponing and using rewards programs and making a dollar out of 15 cents. I feel like any stay-at-home mom or anybody who's had to stretch a dollar, knows these types of ins and outs. And I feel like a lot of that, this whole quote-unquote, we need two incomes propaganda, which I also agree that it is, mostly comes from our mindset and kind of lifestyle of consumerism and excess. So I agree completely with where you were going with that.
Right, and Jay, just to throw some nuance out there, and I don't want to start an official debate, but I believe that we probably have a word concept fallacy between the two of us on church, right? Like, I don't mean a church, I mean the church, and to me, that probably means something different to you. So I don't want to be, rude or anything like that. I'm just pointing out the distinction, right? That, like, when I say the church, I mean very specifically like the Orthodox Church, because they will always support widows and et cetera, right? So, but I'm not saying anything to denigrate your position, right? Just a difference of belief on, because I do see that, right, with a lot of the Protestant churches in my area, where they almost seem to be like, if you're doing your 10% tithe and you are giving money to the church, then we'll help you out, and it's transactional. And I do see that.
Yeah, but they're only going to help you so far. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I don't know anything about Orthodox. My congregation is not your traditional church congregation, and we definitely take care of the widows. That's something that we hold in high regard, and because Scripture says to do it. So I'm with you. I agree on that, and so the clarification there on the difference and the word fallacy for us, that makes sense.
Right, yeah, because you have some of those LGBT non-denominational churches out there.
Yeah, Mar, sorry.
And like, to me,
kind of getting to my chat a little bit late,
so I have a very strict definition on it. But I do understand that very large, like, Anglican base as well, and the Catholics are the number one charitable group on the globe, right? So
the way to be, Scott, for sure,
more
man.
than just that church. I just use that as a distinction. Yeah.
Right.
The town in which I live in right now, there's a church that was a primary player in the separation of church and state in the formation of the colonies in the United States now.
And same guys.
There's even a gravestone that's basically a pulpit with the Bible opened up, and I forget what verse it is that the Bible's opened up to, in commemoration of his, acts to separate church and state. And now today, that church is non-denominational, and it's run by a female lesbian priest. And I grew up Catholic, but I walked away from being Catholic because I don't know, I lost faith in the church. I was around when There was a lot of the problems in the church with the priests and the kids. And I've now since come back to Jesus, and it blows my mind that such a significant place, a building, I understand it is just a building, but it plays such a historical role in the formation of the United States of America. And now I see it as basically just bastardized into this new woke vision of men and women are interchangeable, and it is absolute falsehood.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back on that too. Separation of church and state isn't what you think it is. There's no such thing. And then when you talk about it biblically, we're even told to pray for our leaders. And there's a synergy,
Romans,
right? That
right.
there's supposed to be between the
Romans.
church and the state.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, but you better go back and read your historical literature, because I grew up here in Massachusetts, and it was all about like the importance of church. It was all about the importance of creating up political parties and an understanding of where the common man of low-born birth was able to rise up against the monarchies and the self-appointed rulers of mankind up until that point. And
I mean, that's just factually wrong. I'm so sorry, but it is.
Factually wrong in what?
Everything. So separation of church and state is something that Benjamin Franklin, or is it Thomas Jefferson, wrote in a letter to a French paper or something like that. It has nothing to do with anything constitutionally or like Articles of Confederation or anything like that. In fact, almost every single state, all the way up until like 1980, had an official state church, right? So when we're talking about separation of church and state, we just mean a non-federalized controlled church that can propagandize the people, right? Like Church of England, there is freedom of religion, but that didn't mean that there was separation between the church and the state.
Right. Now that you're looking at it through the lens of like a scientific viewpoint of history, because that's what you just said. I'm talking about what the common man believed at the day and time, and it's hard for modern man. This is what's used against us all the time. It's hard for modern man to put his feet in the shoes of the men that walked before him, even your grandfather.
I mean, you say that, but there was no political parties or incentive for political parties until early 1900s, right? So that's also a bit of a distinction, right? It was until universal voting suffrage was done.
Well, the point I'm making is that the view of the common man of the day in the period of that time between, say, 1770 and 1790, right? They were all about the church. And in fact, whole communities and towns were centered around the churches, especially here in New England. Like, if you go to a given town in New England, you're going to see like denominational churches, whether it be Protestant or Lutheran or Christian or like Catholic or whatever. There's going to be in every town, there's the Methodist, whatever, there's going to be several different churches. And that's not because they just wanted to build them. That's because the parishioners, which made up the community, basically had them built so they could practice their faith, right? And that part of the reason why the country was established was so you could have freedom to practice the faith that you wanted to practice. That's why the Quakers and the Puritans like came over in droves from England and whatnot to establish the colonies, right? The Massachusetts Bay Colony and Virginia and whatever, right? So yeah, religion played a major role in the formation of the country. Not only that, the first educational system in the country, or college in the country, was Harvard, and that was established, I believe, by the Puritans. So, like, they were all about, teaching and basically getting involved in like the development of a civilization. And it was more than just colonization. It was the foundations that were basically established in order to create our civilization. And that those maxims are gone. That how people believed then versus today are just completely gone. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing the managed decline of our society, simply because all those maxims have been just removed from society completely. And so what binds us together? Like I said before, common vision is basically what unites groups. And you got to remember, we're not talking about groups of 10 or 20,000 or a couple 100,000. We're talking tens of millions of people in a country of 350 million people, right? How do you bind 350 million people together? That's the question, right? Like,
I mean, even at the start of the separation of the Revolutionary War and all that stuff in 1772 or whatever, it was less than 10% of the population that actually wanted the separation. And the only problem was that they didn't have a seat in the British Parliament, right? Like, if they were given a seat in the British Parliament, there would never have been even a Revolutionary War. So it's a lot less divisive than people try to make it out to be.
well, 2% of the population was involved in the formation of the country. And you're right, the Tories and the Loyalists all were replete all throughout, like, the colonies. But you got to remember that they didn't know any other way. So you got to look at it through that lens as well. Like, sure, there was a lot of people in the colonies that basically supported the king and the crown, right? And, well, how do you pull away from that if you've never known a world without it, right? So, yeah, there was some very forward-thinking geniuses. I mean, read their words, bro. Like, read their writings, the anti-Federalist papers, the Federalist papers. Dude, I've been to, like, some of the sites that were basically, the foundational places that created the country. And I read the words of these men, and they were wordsmiths. They were geniuses. And I was humbled by these men, because it's like I was either never taught or never knew or could understand the lens of which they viewed the world. And that's why I stand in reverence to these men, because of a greater stoicism, a greater understanding of what it meant to be a man, as a free man, and I think we've lost that. We've been slowly kind of like the frog in the pot type of scenario, where the heat's just been turned up slowly over time. I don't know. Tell me where, you think that might not be the case. Like, where is it in our Constitution that says how everybody feels simultaneously under the banner of our Constitution? It's not there, and it won't be found, but it will be found in the letters between these founding fathers, like you were saying, right? It's these nuances that are missing, and we need to bring them back. And I think there was a girl in here that said something about we need to re-establish the narrative and basically use the propaganda that's been used against us, to use it back against them in order to put a stop to this insanity. Because once America goes, it's over, because there is nowhere to run. Nowhere. So America goes, we are the last milestone of the globalist agenda. And I don't care what anyone says. It's not tinfoil hat speak or anything. It's actually happening. Just look around. Just
oh yeah, 100%. I did a small propaganda campaign, if you will, about this lady named Tilly, who's totally not based on any feminist trope of a terrible lady at all. Wink, wink.
Oh my goodness!
And,
Is this post Wilson or pre Wilson?
Oh no, this is post.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it. It was on my Insta and on my YouTube. But it's called Tilly and the Two Paths, and it takes you through a Tilly who, it's pretty much a Tilly we might know theoretically, who like went to college and did all the stuff she's supposed to, and like
welcome
how
back,
when
Mrs.
she
D.
gets older, she's
I was
gonna die
wondering.
alone. And
I was kind of
miserable and
figuring that
surrounded
was
by
the
cats,
case
right?
when they told
Just
me I needed to
hypothetically.
find out what it
And
was,
then
so
this
I
other
could.
Tilly
Yeah, I
who
didn't figure
dropped out
you'd
of
need it.
college after her first year because she met the love of her
Thanks
life
for
and
the
she had a
engagement.
beautiful family, and she watched her beautiful family grow up and raised her kids and her grandkids, and died at a very old age, surrounded by people she loved, and had a funeral jam packed with people who loved her, right? And it just kind of compares this, which interestingly enough kind of ties into this isolationist subject that we've been going back to. Because I think you naturally kind of do that, right? Like people want to talk about how you can choose your own family and all this other crap, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, you can have friends that are close to you, but there's nothing like family. You can't convince me otherwise. You'll have an exception to the rule, right? But family's family, blood's thicker than water, and I think there's something special and natural about setting down roots and creating a family instead of just chasing all of your own selfish desires. So I'm going to do some more pro women propaganda as well. I really enjoyed creating that little series.
Right on.
Right, and obviously there's nuance and distinction in specific like beliefs of Christianity and sex and however you want to put it, right? Trying to be as general as I can. But I will say that I believe that the general agreement is that there's a salvation, which is a bigger than you thing, right?
Mark's
And
hilarious.
Christianity is one
You
of the
talking to
first
Mrs. D?
religions ever in history and still in history that actually asks you to put someone else before yourself, right? And how that's very honorable and righteous. So I believe like if you don't even have that basic ethical understanding of like it's bigger than you, you shouldn't even be allowed in the country, you know?
There you go.
Well, let me ask this. Should we have a basic, in order for you to vote, should we have like a test that you have to take, like you have to take for your driver's license or any kind of license, because the impact of your vote, if voting actually worked, but maybe it does, I don't know. But the reality is I talk to people that are between the age of, say, 20 and 32, 33. And most of them have no working knowledge of like how anything works in this country at all. Even like their voting rights,
Oh, yeah.
like what, you know what I mean?
History,
Like,
civics, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I do understand that, but I'm a complete stakeholder representative believer, right? So I believe that like even if 100% of the land and property and wealth and everything is held by complete idiots in America, they're the ones that have the right to make a decision, right? Because they are the ones that have a stake in the nation. Whereas an ethics test, you could put almost anyone in it when they have dual citizenship or et cetera, right? So there's nuance in that where, like, yeah, you can have a bunch of smart people, but with no accountability, right? So there's an issue.
No accountability until what degree, though? Like, it's
Like,
where's
let's say I
the
have dual citizenship, I vote in the election, I don't like the turnout, and I'm able to move and leave because I have citizenship in another country.
okay? I see what you're saying.
Right, like just because I'm smart enough to pass the ethical test may not be that I'm still for the best of the nation, right?
And a dual, I mean, there could be, right now we don't have enough restrictions to voting. It could mean we also have both things. Say you have to be a stakeholder and you also have to pass some sort of civics test,
Oh, right.
etc.,
I'm all
something
for
like that.
narrowing it down, you know. I completely agree with you, Leia. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a bad idea at all.
Well,
yeah, less is not more. More is more. And we need more.
Yeah, that.
in Massachusetts, right? So as a citizen, I'm granted certain privilege and we'll say benefits as a citizen, right? But like when somebody comes to my state and they're legal, but they can get a driver's license, they can vote. What does my citizenship mean then? What's the differentiation between anybody on the face of the globe who comes here legally or illegally, and they're able to basically exercise the same rights I do as a citizen? What does my citizenship mean?
Well, it's even less than that, right? What's your
We have more rights.
being able to live here, right? Because in Ohio, you can still have a translator for the CDL, commercial driver's license test. So you may not even be able to read the street signs, and you can still get your CDL to drive an 80,000 plus truck. You know, so
That's crazy. That's crazy.
What were you saying, Static Age? You're trying to pop in there.
Yeah,
I was just saying that the immigrants in some cases have more rights, and American citizens are really like the second class citizens beneath the immigrants.
Yeah.
Agreed.
They're thinking, so sad, too bad. Should have been quicker.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Massachusetts, and this state's been basically overrun because we're a sanctuary state for, our brethren of the world. And there's one thing I learned while I was in school in sociology, and sociology is basically the study of masses of people, the groups of people, right? And we're not interchangeable. So somebody from like India or China or Africa, South America, is absolutely not interchangeable with the people of the United States. Sorry, that's not how it works. And like one of the things I pointed out years ago to someone I got in a heated debate with, it was a family member, in fact, and basically I was saying that when you allow the borders to be wide open and anybody from anywhere can come here, well, what's the first thing they're doing? And we see it all over the Southwest. Like, well, I'll use Mexicans as an example. They're coming, they're basically settling, colonizing, and now they're planting their flag in our country and claiming that we stole their land. Dude, I mean, it's almost ludicrous to the extent that this is being like spread within like the Southwest part of the country. And it blows my mind. Not to say that Mexican people are bad. I'm not even implying that. What I'm saying is in general, they come to this country, they have absolutely no respect for our language, our customs, our ways, or our political theater, right? Yet they're vocal. They're basically claiming that they're reclaiming their land that they stole from somebody else that we bought through contract. I mean, it's almost insane. Does anybody else see what I've just said? Anywhere in the Southwest?
Yeah, well,
it's over the whole country, not just the Southwest.
Yeah, I'll even take it one step
Minnesota.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, man.
No, you were talking about Southwest Dakota.
No. I said just look at like Minnesota and places like that where it's completely overrun by Muslims. It's definitely not just the Southwest.
Okay, so I was going to bring up this anecdotal, but it's also a good point to see that it's destroying these other countries' ability to ever, get anywhere as well. I was speaking to a gentleman. His name is OJ. Hilarious. I always make jokes about gloves fitting with him and stuff, but that's a weird ADHD tangent. I'm not going to go there. Anyways, he is pushing to get an H-1B. I said to him, I was like, how is your country going to get any better if all of your smartest people leave and go to Europe and the US? And he's like, could we have smart people here? And I'm like, yeah, but you're leaving. And he's like, no, some of us stay. And I said, so are you planning on staying? And he's like, no, I want the better opportunities. So, these other countries are so short-sighted that they don't care about their own development,
Yeah, at this point, we're not going to vote our way out of this. Not to say that people shouldn't vote, but I mean, Trump's cutting deals with China to bring hundreds of thousands of Chinese people here and allowing them to buy up all the farmland and things like that. So even when you think you're voting for a solution, you probably aren't.
Right.
You guys.
Trump's short-sightedness in that, because I completely agree with his plan on let's be the reason that there's onshore oil with China from the United States and our supply, and then cut them off from Iran, weaken Iran, and then that helps us in the Middle East. But I'm more worried about China than Iran, so I think you got the wrong enemy in mind. And he also said something about being the underdog and overthrowing, and Trump thought it was just a dab at Biden. And it's like, no, he's talking about China and America. Like, he's going to come up and overthrow. He said it directly to your face, and you didn't catch it.
Well, currently in the news, right? Iran this, Iran that. Iran's the big enemy, right? Are you guys aware that in Washington State, the government of Iran owns hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland?
Not
That
surprised.
the
Right.
Chinese have even more of a stake in the United States, and then of course they're buying, land assets around our sensitive military bases all throughout the country. I mean, when was this a good idea? Like at any point, when was it a good idea to allow foreign hostile countries to come into the United States and like hostilely take over our industry and either destroy it and completely disassemble it, and or like utilize their manufacturing strength that we gave them? They steal our technology and they literally undermined any possible growth in the United States. When was this a good idea? Anybody?
I mean, the average American is just completely oblivious to what's going on, and I think it's a lack of intelligence, critical thinking, which is a problem, because they just
I think there's a
voted
deeper
in
reason.
someone in California, right? They voted in someone that was a Chinese spy. They found out, and it's like, oh, shocking, right? She had dual citizenship with China, and you can just Google really quickly and find documents of Chinese, immigration policy and stuff like that. And it's like, if you will still have Chinese citizenship, you have to remain loyal to China. You have to still report to the CCP, all of this other stuff. And it's like, so she's like literally here as a spy, and she gets voted in. And it's
I would say that the majority of our politicians are serving foreign interests. I mean, more so on the federal level, but
I agree.
not necessarily China.
Where's the representation?
Hold on.
No, seriously, where is the representation?
Hold on, General. Cleaner.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Cleaner.
If I may, I was going to say, I think whenever we're talking about fixing problems, like I'm a troubleshooter. I've been troubleshooting a lot of different equipment my whole life. Spent a lot of time doing it, been very successful at it. When I look at troubleshooting, I try to find the original problem that created all the others, or that's holding all the others in place, not letting me fix whatever else I need to fix because I can't see it. Well, the problem that we have right now is that there's not enough visibility on these things that are really bad in society. But it's not really that there's not enough visibility, because they're being very opaque. They're being very forward with how they're doing things right now. They're not even trying to hide that there's communists and socialists and all this other stuff. So where's the problem? Well, if the problem isn't that the people can see this to do something about it, then where is the problem? The problem is that the people are not doing something about it. Why are they not doing something about it? Well, that would be because between 60 and 80% of people in these countries are held into a certain metric of survival, month-to-month paycheck living, or a month behind month-to-month, trying to gain food, trying to have a roof over their heads, things like this. And they've been convinced that all these little things in their lives that they've got subscriptions for, monthly fees for, are needed and necessary. And these are the things you'll have to give up if you want to fight the system. Well, as long as you're stuck in this system where your survival brain is engaged, your higher intellectual function brain cannot be fully engaged and start going into more in-depth ideas past level 3. Level 3 is where we're just worried about how things affect us and our immediate environment, our family. But if we can't see past level 3 because we're stuck there by society, then we don't have a chance. So I think what we have to figure out how to fix first is how to get it so that people aren't in a constant survival metric, so that the general people can actually engage what little intellect some have and what maximal intellect others have to try and assist us in clearing out these problems we have in society.
I do agree with that in a large part, but I would also disagree with that slightly, because there's a large, let's say, like the college age person, right, who isn't struggling, who still relies on their parents, and they may not be doing it on their own, but they're not feeling that kind of pressure, and they're being completely swayed by it, right? Like, you have someone like Mom Dami, who straight up says, I'm a socialist. I like Karl Marx, right? And he's saying all these wild things. He gets voted into office, and I don't know if you guys have been following any like New York local politics, but he just put in a bill that would say like we will by code enforcement say that because you haven't, even things as small as like you didn't change the temperature on the thermostat in your multi-home or multifamily building, we are now going to possess it as a state and then give it to the tenants and give them ownership for free. So he's literally talking about stealing your property, taking it over, and then giving it for free to your tenants. So it's literally communism, and people
And
are all for it.
I hear what you're saying, but I see also the social evolution that's happened as people have been forced into this survival metric. As more and more have, we don't vet our colleges to make sure our kids are going to good colleges anymore. We don't have a hand in that as parents. We don't have a hand in a lot of things as parents anymore. We've had to give that up so that we can maintain our household and our bills.
Let me add to that. So what's happened is you're chasing the American dream that's always just outside your grasp. And in that chase, you lose sight
welcome in.
of your
Birds
own
aren't even real.
reality.
Appreciate the engagement.
You become.
Are you talking about Static Age show?
Encased or ensnared in a fantasy that's been presented to you as reality.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
And
blood.
In that pursuit,
Static Age.
You lose sight of your wife and your children and your life. And moreover, your community is the furthest thing from your thoughts. And even further than that is why you're paying what you're paying for your auto insurance or your homeowner insurance or what your mortgage is or the cost of your home, because that's just too crazy to even try and figure out, right? I mean, dude, it's a trap. We're all debt. We're tax mules is what they've reduced us to. That's plain and simple what it is. Tax mule.
Yeah, it is pretty cool looking video that you got there.
Well, and so I think what we should be focused on is a way to get us out of this constant survival, or get our fellow, men and women of the world out of this constant survival metric so that they can start thinking about things and engaging with what's going on in reality.
I will say that the only way to actually make that happen is to have very few powerful people force the rest of the population to do it, because no one's going to willingly make their life a struggle. Like, a majority of people today will not say, hey, yes, let's remove social health care. So by the cost of hospital bills and everything actually decreases because it's not all subsidized. Therefore, now we don't need a social health care program in the first place. Same thing with food stamps. Same thing with housing. Same thing with almost any other metric out there, right? Like the social program, colleges is a massive one, right? You can track the subsidization of colleges with attendance and with the cost overall for your tuition, right? So like subsidizing colleges on a federal level has made it so expensive, everyone's got to go into debt for it, and too many people are approved for it, right? So there's a massive issue with that too.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's the only way to fix things, though. That's kind of the problem and the fix fallacy is like there's one problem, there's one fix. There's not just that one fix. There's a vast array of fixes that we could come up with. The point is that we start fixing the thing that is holding us back.
What's one of the biggest tools that are used against this to create what we understand as reality in the United States? What is the, just off the top, okay, how is that achieved? How is that brainwashing being achieved?
Weak parents with lack of values.
In many different ways. There have been books that have been written that have the brainwashing in them. There have been movies. There have been, it's all forms of propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's the parents' choice whether or not they're exposed to a certain level, right? Like homeschooling versus public, cell phones versus no internet, things like that.
Right. And again, I would say in order for parents to be able to properly vet their children's interactions, they need to have more time on their hands to be able to do that, and less time struggling, worrying about paying the bills and all that other crap, and their luxurious lifestyle they've been convinced they have to live.
So what are the two vectors in this country that those metrics are delivered? Meaning, what is the mechanism that's creating the landscape for this brainwashing to happen? Do you guys have?
Well, I would say the two are the propagandizing of the nuclear family, and then I would say all the government subsidies forcing people
No.
to believe that's
Actually, that's not quite right. Something I found out was the nuclear family was actually invented to destroy the community, to segregate the families away from the community and make them only be about their family. That was an intent in order to put us into the metric where we would be worried about our kids learning and their education and putting them into state-run schools because we no longer trust our community to do that. We have to go to the government.
Right. Well, when I say nuclear family, I don't mean the classical term. I know exactly what you're speaking of. I mean, like in comparison to the single mother or the two gay dads kind of family, right? Like the nuclear family of being a mother, father, father works, mother caretakes, children get raised, and then an amalgamation of those types of families in a community, right? Is more what I was meaning loosely. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying too. I think it's important though because a lot of people have kind of misconstrued the entailments of what goes along with the nuclear family, and like the conceptual that we have is that it's the family and family first and all, and that's good, but there needs to be something right under that before you get to the rest of civilization, and that needs to be your community. Like your community needs to be right there, right underneath. They're the people that are going to prop you up. Whether your community is a church, whether it's like you're a science nerd, and you got a whole bunch of science nerds that are your community, whatever your community is, those are the people that are going to be there and assist you and prop you up in some way. So why is it that we resist utilizing each other for the thing that we're good at, which is helping each other when we're in each other's lives?
I mean, I would honestly say that's a lack of God, right? I would say that's honestly the issue, right? When you don't have a higher reasoning other than this person and I agree, so therefore we band together, like that's a very weak alliance. And that breaks down very quickly in societies and communities.
Yeah.
But without just a lack of God as the answer, what is the baseline mentality that's missing? That's the important thing.
Non-accountability.
I don't disagree with the God thing because I'm myself, I believe, but everyone has a little different belief system. The thing that we can do is weed out the bad ones by applying some kind of metric of what we consider a net positive or a good.
Sure.
Right, yeah.
How about this?
And we can steal from all different nations across the world. I think it's Sweden now. They say that if you have 3 kids and your wife and you're working off of like a single income, you don't have to pay income tax after a certain point. Like they're literally like, please make a family, support yourself with one income, raise your kids. We need this, and like I think that's such a healthy way to, change the course of things.
Sure. But what I'm asking you is like, when you say they need God, what is it you're really saying? Because those words need to be said so people understand those words too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. It's a lack of morality, right? It's a lack of higher purpose.
There you go. And the thing is, with or without God, all right, it doesn't matter your belief structure. You can look at science, and we have 2 main drivers for life. And almost all of our moral systems are built around those 2 main drivers and how we can achieve them within our current society or community that we're in.
I absolutely 100% agree.
Yeah. Static
So
Age, I think you were trying to say something. Did you have something to say, Static?
No.
Okay. All right, no worries. And then real quick, while I have the floor for a second, I'm about the where I usually end my stream. I'm not necessarily going to end my stream, but I wanted to give the opportunity for anybody to leave if they needed to, get on with their evening or anything like that before we move forward.
Yep, I'm going to bow out.
With you, Tater.
Kind of bitch. What was that, Heaven Max?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over Leia. It's fine.
You're all right. Jay, yeah, I figured you would be needing to get going. I always appreciate you being on the panels. Is there anything that you wanted to shout out, Jay?
If you haven't yet, hit that bell and subscribe.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. As always, you're welcome back, and I appreciate the insight that you always give. Was there anything else that you wanted to say before you dip?
Nope. Have a nice night, guys.
All right. God bless. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Jay.
Have a good night, man.
Heaven Max, were you saying something?
I came across as ma'am and not man. Sorry.
Anyway, also, I wanted to give a shout out for the Cash App. $5 from Kyle. Thank you very much, Kyle. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that support. If you're still in the chat, hopefully you are, buddy. And if anybody else, I don't ask for much. Just please like, subscribe, share, ring that notification bell so you know when I'm live. But if you do have anything that's spare jingling in your pocket, contributions are nice. But with that being said, was there anybody else that needed to bow out or anything like that before we move forward? Okay, I'm going to grab something to eat. Was there anything that you guys needed before I dip for 5 minutes or so?
So what's the next topic, just to see if we're ready to move on or not?
Sure. So we're working on the second prompt, which is men and women have forgotten how to need people. And what has gone, where has that gone, and how does that suppression of that need manifest itself now? And then the next one is, why do we applaud and encourage others to cut people off, but shame them for staying and working it out? And these are in the side chat. If you know how to get to the side chat, that way you can reference back to them at any point in time. I
actually got to bow out before you guys get started again. Thanks for having me up, Tater.
Yeah.
Always appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Nice talking to you guys.
Appreciate the insight that you always give. Before you leave, if you want to shout your channel out, please do so.
Yeah, sure. My channel's Static Age Show. I stream usually like once a week, but I'm gonna try to start doing a little more often.
Fair.
I'm an Orthodox Christian, although my content is not really centered towards that. I kind of react to current events and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm not alone. Pleasure to meet you.
You
Right
too,
on.
brother.
Yeah. Again, as always, you're always
thanks,
welcome.
guys.
Yeah, you're always welcome back, and appreciate you, man. Have a blessed night, buddy.
You too. God bless,
Thanks.
guys.
Have a good one.
Take care.
All right. Was there anything else that you guys needed before I go grab some food? No. All right. I will let you guys get back to it.
Get you some nom nom.
Yeah, I'm gonna go grab some food. So I'll be right back.
Be safe.
We'll be here. Yeah, Heather and I tagged you in. Yeah, I do remember that crazy lady last week. By the way, that was something else. I tagged you in the other part of the Discord server where the topics are. By the way, I tagged you there. I could just put them here too, just to be so helpful. I'm gonna put them in the main side chat here for anybody who wants to take a look at them.
My
Cool.
side chat ain't like it's saying messages failed to load. Try again. The Tater Talk panel side chat.
Try opening, like try
No,
right clicking on
it's
another
here.
channel and opening chat, and then opening this one again. It may just need
All
to
right.
refresh. I had to do that earlier when Dave updated me so I could come up.
Yeah, the third prompt I can't even talk about because that's against my entire purview, you know?
No, it's not.
Why do we applaud? And well, here's number 3. Why do we applaud and encourage others to cut people off, but shame them for staying and working it out? I don't feel like a lot of us do that. I feel like society, kind of as a whole, does that.
Well, it depends on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about 2 and 3 because 2 builds into 3, really, right? And it's like saying
Yep.
men and increasingly women have forgotten how to need people. Now, my only thing towards that is I don't think men have forgotten how to need people. We know how to need people. We know that we are needed and other people play parts and also are needed. Everybody's vital. I don't hear in society or even people I know or on social media even, you don't hear men saying we don't need women, women aren't shit. You know, we don't we hit, you know, we don't I don't see that. I don't. I mean, you get the one-off, you know, sexist or whatever on YouTube, But the masses, the average man that's going out and living their everyday life, they don't even think that way. That I've seen a lot of people stay, especially men, stay in horrible marriages, situations, relationships, me included, trying to, work through all the horrible stuff that's going on, So I don't think it's men have forgotten how to need people. I think it's men have seen what is asked of them or told of them. We aren't shit. We're not needed. Men aren't needed. We want you. What does that fucking mean?
Well,
we don't need you. We want you. What?
I think most men, and this is something I really love about America and about how it's affected other nations' mentalities, because it's got other nations to do this too, other nations' men, right? One thing that most women on the planet love about American men is we see the thing, we look at the situation, we do the thing we got to do, right? Like we'll do something if needs be.
Right.
But the thing is that like we don't have as many people right now doing that. That's why we won World War II, by the way. The Germans couldn't figure out how our single privates could go out into the field without a commander anywhere near them, see the thing, and annihilate it. They couldn't understand that. It's what makes America great. We have this mentality that we create in people. See the thing, do what you need to do. And we've lost that in some areas. Those areas where we've lost it are where we're inundated with a lot of insanity that doesn't make sense. Things that go against human survival. Things that go against our societal survival,
Absolutely. And
we need to figure out how to reteach that back into the people that are getting it.
I mean, what does the average man who wants the wife, who cherishes that, who wants the kids, who wants all that stuff, the average guy, not the 6 foot plus, the Chads, the Brads, the average guys who, of the country that make the world go round. What are they supposed to? How do you, respond to majority of women going, "We want the bear"?
Ignore them and find the minority that God wanted you to find that makes your life fulfilling.
How does that make us the ones who have forgotten how to depend on people, or women especially?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think men will ever forget how to depend on people, because at some point in every man's life, they'll hit a point where they need someone, right? And that's something that we understand, because a lot of us who are industrial workers and things like that, we have to depend on each other and other people. We have a very intricate understanding of dependency, the follower-leader dynamic.
I mean, call it a hot take, but I think that this will just solve itself here shortly. Shortly meaning in the next couple generations, because those with moral values will be raising our kids with those moral values, and we are out procreating the ones who have a very subjective morality. And then on that same note, I believe that, and this may be a hot take, but the incel community, they're just being outcompeted, and they are just loud and being heard. But I think that's just basic competition, right? Like people that say, oh, well, a woman wants a man that's 6 foot. Okay, well, that's her preference. Maybe she finds it, maybe she doesn't, right? Like we can all have our own preferences, and blaming women for being celibate or something like that is just, sorry, you've lost the competition.
Yeah, that term is wrong too. I hate that term incel, because it's not truthful. There is no such thing as a male incel. There are male bencels, benevolently celibate, but there is no such thing as an involuntarily celibate man. Men can take what they want. They have that advantage of force. I don't suggest they do that, but they can. And women have forgotten that and made men forget that by calling them incels. We need
men didn't come up with that. Men didn't come up with that term. That was from a woman.
I know. We need to kill that term. All of society needs to kill that term.
Let me interject here. So think of this, right? It's how people think, which is being overlooked here. Men think in a linear fashion. How men progress is they come upon a problem, they fix the problem, they move on to the next problem. Then they're not like out there in all different locations spatially. When men move in a direction, they move linear. When women move into a direction, they don't. They're spatial because they're ruled through emotions, whereas men are basically a principle of stoicism, where a male who's successful is stoic to a certain degree in a majority of his life, right? And that's the differences. Until we start to identify how men function and how women should function, not what's happening today. Because what women today are they're not representative of the female or the truest sense of what a female is in the species. She's completely devoid of that. That's why, like, you have all these woke activists, and what they're doing is they're trying to fulfill that maternal role that they threw over in order to pursue their career and political ideologies and, save the planet, right? That there's the difference. And until we distinguish that men and women are completely different in our approach to the world and how we think, and that's the key thing here, how a person thinks, then we're just going to continuously recycle all this bullshit. That's my take on it anyways.
I agree with most of what you said there. I think the only little differential I would say to add clarity would be when we're talking in general about men and women and their biological proclivities, like what they're really good at in society. Men build society, build the foundation, build the rule set and the infrastructure so that other men can't destroy what they hold most dear. The women in our society socialize it and make it worth living in and worth defending. And if the women don't make it worth defending, the men will build another infrastructure somewhere else because it's what we do. That's what we've always done. Or we'll clean house. It's just one of those things. It's like, it will happen one way or another. And yes, everything will calm down in society eventually because the non-self-sustaining ideologies and mentalities, I mean, they're non-self-sustaining. So,
well, let me add this. So feminism has created the weak men prophecy, right? Because the women believe that they're equivalent to men. So what's the saying go? Hard men create easy times. Easy times create soft men, and then soft men basically destroy everything until hard men bring it back again, right? Well, feminism has basically taken up that slack and created weak men. Look at how they've inundated all of our policies, our political arenas, the way that we view our world, our function, everything. And they have this say that basically is the equivalent of weak men in our society, which is accelerating the demise of it.
Well, I don't think they've necessarily created weak men. I think they've done what people with power have done all through history. They've used the illusion to control people, right? Like they've convinced men that they're weak, and so that keeps them in control because the men think they're weak, but they're not actually. They just are convinced they are.
I mean,
But
I would call it a trichotomy.
You can convince someone they're a different gender, and they may go and try and performatively get that done, but they're still not, it doesn't change the thing.
Right.
Well, I would say that there's a trichotomy at play that people just need to come to terms with, right? There's going to be one of three directions that the country's going to go, and we'll see it very shortly, is what my prediction is. We'll either see Christian men take back the reins, we'll either see Muslim men overtake the reins, or we'll see a secular communist
Good
type
to see
government
you, man.
take the reins, right?
Hopefully
but
you're still
eventually
around.
someone's going to have to push the power play, and I just feel like it's going to be one of those.
I was hungry.
I agree 100%. There's going to be fallout, and whatever that fallout is, man, I don't want to be alive when that shit happens. No way.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the fallout. There's a certain, like, all different mentalities of people are needed. The people who are
Thanks,
necessary
Marcelary.
evils
Appreciate
in
that.
our world, the people that we know will go and do the thing that hurts their brain and puts them in a state of never being able to sleep
give us
at
short
night and all
kings
that.
a
They
chance,
will do
right?
the thing that we need them to do.
Yeah.
They will. They will understand the need and they will fill. Nature abhors a vacuum. That's all there is to it. If there's a vacuum of power, people will fill it.
I'm not going to join any kind of military, but as someone that's lost a child, I know what I'm willing to fight for and die for. So I've got my line in the sand of when I might take up arms or anything of that sort, right? If anything were to happen. And I think that a majority of men also feel that way. We're just being benevolent, as you say, right? It's a benevolency. It's not a weakness.
And that's the very attitude is why over the last 50 years or so that Christianity and Catholicism and all of our religions that have basically built the society have been under attack. And literally, they're trying to destroy it because what you two men just said right now is what is feared the most by those that seek to dominate. Of
course, because it's the easiest control metric.
Yeah. Well, and
if you control the strong men or disincentivize them, right, then you can control everything at that point.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
Look
and
at communism.
If you can convince good men that them going out and doing something is going to be met with not good actions, they won't want to do the good thing.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
I would argue that it actually takes more courage and strength to do the right thing than it does to just do what thou wilt.
Well, that's why they want to kill religion.
Exactly.
Like communism, right? Anywhere there's communism in the world, the first thing they do is they kill all the religious leaders. Is because the state doesn't want competition, and the competition is like spiritual belief, and spiritual belief can't be broken. It's not a political ideology. You can't be swayed from it. It is what it is. And there's a connection between you and the Creator that is absolutely, once believed, is unbreakable, unshakable.
Right.
Well, right. And not to get too theological, because I know there's a mix of people, but you must not fear that who can destroy the body, but who can destroy the body.
3 miles
soul,
in an
right?
hour. That ain't bad for even
God,
a decent
you don't fear man.
person. Give yourself more credit, Homestead. Welcome back.
Lena brought up during World War II about how the average private was able to take control of the situation and basically use his own agency in order to literally free himself of what he believed was an oppressor of mankind. And after the war, there was a lot of military colleges that did immense studies on why was it that the American GI was so successful. And Kleiner did. He tapped right on the vein of that. And where that like self-agency came from was prior to the war, a majority of the country was spiritually possessed, meaning that they believed in a creator. They were going to their community churches, whatever the denomination may be, right? And that they had faith in the family and themselves, and that the spirit that was imbued in them was that you're the king of your castle, but you are a pawn of Christ. And that is what they went into battle with. I've read many letters of men that wrote home and basically trying to describe what they were going through, but sparing their loved ones of the true horrific nature of war. And one of the things that was a common reoccurring theme within all of these letters was simply their belief in God will get them through to return home to their loved ones. That's simple. And it was missing on the other side.
Yeah. And I remember there have been Oh, I don't know. There's probably at least a dozen or so documentaries of the Germans trying to figure out exactly why it was that when they had millions of troops, we stormed their beaches with 50 to 100,000 and wiped them out with those 50 to 100,000. They just could not understand it. And it was this mentality. It was the mentality of you are an army of one. That was
Yep.
the mentality. You are expected to be the entire ideology of America. And that's what wins wars, is that they're not fighting men. They're fighting an ideology. The ideology of we're going to stop you from doing evil.
Correct.
Oh, right. Like the majority of the fight that I do now is just intellectual, but a majority of it gets me removed because of TOS. But I respect Tater too much to do that. But yeah, no, I believe that a lot of men are starting to fight back, but it starts
I get what you
intellectually
mean.
right now.
And I appreciate the respect for sure.
Right, yeah. Like my other Discord chats are contentious to say the least.
Sure.
But you know, you gotta fight the ideology, not the person.
Right.
That's absolutely true.
Right, exactly.
Well, and to even support that, right? The first Gulf War, hearts and minds. The second Gulf War, hearts and minds, right? And what are they actually saying when they're saying hearts and minds? Well, they're not winning the hearts and minds of the American soldier. They're trying to win their hearts and minds of the lands that they're conquering, invading, and killing their women, their children, right? And I was never in support of us going into Iraq. And the reason being behind that was a falsehood. It was a lie. And yet everybody was on board. It was patriotic, waving the flag, right? 500,000 kids died between the first time we went there and the second time we went there because of the lack of medical, pharmacology and, medical support to help these kids because of the sanctions that were placed on Iraq, right? And Saddam Hussein, who was put there by the U.S. CIA, who was trained at Fort Benning, Georgia, to be the leader of Iraq, by the way. There are things that are going on that shouldn't be going on that I think bewilder the average man. The men that are in this room right now who have clear conscience, who have clear sight of who they are, right? And this is the biggest threat to what's going on right now in the world. And it's not just in America. It's look at Canada. Jesus Christ. It don't even resemble the country I knew 15 years ago, right? There's a guy that just got 3 years prison sentence because he refused to use the right pronoun. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
Now I'm just ranting.
Well, no, you pointed out something big there. I mean, you can't police passive speech. I do think you can police threatening speech and hateful. I mean, there are some things you can definitely police, but if people are being polite and just exercising a view that they disagree with something, I mean, I don't see an issue. We shouldn't be policing them. If somebody tells you that you have to say the sky is red from now on, and you're like, but it's not, like that, that's ridiculous for them to arrest you for not being willing to say that. Now, I understand what they say though when they say, yeah, but you Americans believe in this and this and this, and like at one point in time, people would have been arrested for that. Well, yeah, but we moved away from that because we're not dumbasses anymore. Like we get rid of bad things. Sure. Hey, I'm a dumbass in other ways. I'll admit it. I am. But I think also, General Smedley, you pointed out another good point, which is that as we change in social eras, different types of people are needed. But the thing is, then this is something you can always be guaranteed of. Nature abhors a vacuum. Nature will not allow a vacuum to be there. The universe won't. So if there's a place where you need strong men will slowly trickle feed into that area, or maybe move in mass. I don't know, but they'll fill it. They'll fill it somehow. And whether it's a good strongman or a bad strongman is the differential there. Much like the shadow people that are controlling everything, right? Like at one point in human history, we had a good collection of those people who wanted us to grow, expand, get onto other continents, move out, and they were pushing us in that direction. Now we don't. Well, I would say now it looks like we have bad people in the shadow government. We probably need to change them out for good people. Everything is needed. It's just we need good people in those places.
Well, I'd say
they're
a big
not
portion
allowed.
of that is people fight the patriarchy instead of respect it, right? Like if you understand that if you have a patriarchy in your home, in your community, in your state, in your nation, etc., that you tend to be a really strong, whichever group you're looking at, right? Like a strong family has a patriarch, has someone that's there for safety and to lead and to provide. Same for a community, same for a state, same for a nation. And so once we get away from respecting that and understanding, like we need powerful, good men, right, leading the country. We need powerful, good men leading the family, leading the community, etc. You know.
I'll say this. I want to believe. I truly want to believe that it's just a question of good men pulling together. But it seems that the society, on a societal level, has been corrupted. The rise of like a narcissism within the society, especially within our women, is it's crazy. And it's a pathology. And that pathology can turn into a pathology that is completely corrosive to the greater, we'll say, society as a whole. And it's all being pushed. I presented what were the vectors or the sources of this pathology that's basically gaining traction within our society. Well, it's all of our entertainment, news, media, legacy media, you name it. These 4 or 5 corporations that control all the media in the Western world basically are, you can clearly see that they're basically poisoning the well. And why is it that our leaders, through the FCC, we have agencies, federal agencies, and not just one, there's a few of them, that are supposedly monitor them to make sure they maintain like order, and yet like a good example is on television, your regular legacy TV. There's that show, The View, with all these women that espouse these socialist and communist ideas, and that the virtues of feminism and women are so virtuous they can't even be questioned why they hold the beliefs that they do, right? And like that in itself, that it's a mechanism that's being employed and deployed throughout the entire civilization, and yet nobody like really points that out, like, because it would be the very same actors, the stage, that's setting the tone in the country now, questioning itself and saying, hey, maybe we're wrong about like what we've been saying for the last 40 years. Maybe we should turn this around and bring the country back to its fucking senses. I mean, does any of that make it? I hope we're not live because I just said the F word. I just dropped it.
You're all right. We are live, but you're all right. It happens. But yeah,
I'm
sorry,
say,
man.
though, that don't get me standing on my soapbox, but I can easily suggest something that nobody likes, which is a monarchy would fix everything, right? Because a monarchy would be essentially the same structure as we have now. It's just you know who the shadow people are, you know who to go after, etc. Whereas
That's
when
what
you
China has, though. That's what China is right now. Xi Jinping, man, he's basically the ruler. It's just the same as
well,
what do you
that's not
call
a
it? Putin
monarchy.
is in
That's a
Russia.
dictatorship. There is nuance in there, right? Like a
Okay.
monarchy has dukes and a parliament, etc. There are checks and balances. It's just the very most powerful person. You know who it is. It's not some shadow person controlling someone that's elected in or out, right? Like the one that's there from birth to death. They tend to be the one that's in control, not the people coming in and out of the spheres, right?
Every form
Well,
of government has the same checks and balances, and that's men saying, no, screw you.
yep.
I'm not putting up with that anymore.
Right. I'm
Right.
just saying that, like, with the shadow people or however you want to dictate them, we don't know who to go after. And that's the issue, right? Is like we've allowed these people with, just because they have money, now they control things. That's a really scary situation.
Sure.
But do you see my point? Like, there are mechanisms at play within the greater society, right, that are basically steering the ship. We are not steering the ship. They are steering the ship. They create a good example is Edward Bernays, right? He's the nephew of Sigmund Freud, right? And so he's been named the father of propaganda, and his ideas and methodologies on how to create a given attitude or belief set within the greater society. So this goes way beyond like that tribal set of like how people come together in a small local community. This is on a national or international scale. And he figured out like literally the cheat code to the human mind. And then they kind of set on that, and they've been using it against us ever since. A good example is Wilhelm Reich, 1933, wrote the book, The Mass Psychology of Fascism. And literally, it is the game plan that the Nazis used to create the Nazi regime and Nazism itself, and how to gain power through like propagandized ideas and ideologies and ideations that are pervasive within the greater society, right? And they hated that guy because he wrote several books, and that one particular book was good for the Nazi Party at the time. But he also wrote books that countered the narrative that he put forth, and basically said that these are corrosive to society and that they're always going to end in ruin, right? And what I find fascinating is we're going through the same thing. Like they say, history repeats itself. We are absolutely going down the very same road that led to the tyranny of Nazi Germany. Not to say that we're Nazis, because we're not. Nobody's a Nazi today. Nobody. Right?
Well, separate the terms, General, because it's conflated. So what you're talking about, there's a difference between the National Socialist thing that Reich put out and a difference between Nazism, right? Nazism is the religion that extends that. And that's what's actually bad. National Socialism itself isn't necessarily bad because it doesn't necessarily say we just have to kill people or anything like that, right? It says let's get these people out of our community. There's not necessarily anything bad with that. It's the Nazism that took it to the extreme with the religious and the radical and all that we have a problem with.
Right. Well, so what they did was they used the common enemy scenario, and all right. So, and I know this is kind of like edgy here, but I have to say it. So, the Jews have not been liked for a very long time, and they've been used as scapegoat throughout history because of their actions and inactions or whatever, right? So what did the Germans do? They picked up on that, although there were, we'll say, there were elements to the story that were actually true. But all schemes have truth in them. Right? Regardless, they're commingled with lies, but as long as they get the outcome that they seek, it doesn't matter. So in the case of the Jews during the Nazi era, they were used, and then they were, brutally put to death. And I'm not going to deny that that's a thing. You know what I mean? But hold on. All right, I'm going to stop talking, I think.
You're all right.
Okay.
You're right.
So you're right. No. You're right, Cleaner, that this form of Nazism is, I think, another tool that's being used. I believe that the country's been subverted. The McCarthyism, right, during the 50s, right? So his big rage was, we're communists are infiltrating everything. Hollywood's a bunch of communists, and he wasn't wrong. That's the thing. The guy, like, he's vindicated because of what's coming out of Hollywood and the subtle messaging that's been coming out of Hollywood for as long as I've been alive. And who's that serving? See, that's the question here. Like, and people go, "Oh, that's crazy talk." Like, how does that serve any real purpose? Well, look at the state of the country. We have a country that was established by white men. Okay, and I'm going to just use terms that are considered racial, but I have to because it's actually what it is. Okay. White European Anglo-Saxons settled this country, colonized it, and created the greatest, we'll say, country in the world. Okay, because what happened is a common man of low-born birth could become the president of the country, right? So that incentivized people hugely, and prior to that, people weren't incentivized. That's why, like, if you think about it, the last, say, 400 years in Europe were stagnant because why were people incentivized to create things to make life easier on them when they would never benefit from it because the lord or the duke of the land or the king, you were basically his property, and anything that you create is his property. So you see what I'm saying? And even when that system was broken and they went to like this idea of labor that was basically indentured servitude. Damn, I'm not exactly sure what but the point I'm making is that we need to kind of like turn this around. And Lena was right. Things like the idea that you can be called a Nazi because of your beliefs is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. So we have to now create a counter narrative that basically eliminates this insanity, this virtue signaling, this woke ideology that they just keep playing against us. Our own freedom of speech, like we have invading people in this country, like the Muslims that are taking over. It was just the other day in the news where they did I think it was like a 60-minute documentary on how Sharia law is fully engaged and active in the state of Texas, and that they have 2 cities that are now completely all Muslim, for Muslims, and include Sharia law, and the government, state representatives and law enforcement can no longer turn a blind eye to it because the citizenry, men like ourselves, are basically going, "Hey, wait a minute, that religion with its own laws and stuff is being implemented here in the United States. We're not too thrilled about that because we already have our own laws. So what are we going to do about this?" And now they have to address it. You see what I'm saying? There is so many. It is huge. It's
Well, they
just,
don't have
I don't know.
to. I mean, they don't.
Well, no.
The thing is about all of these ideologies and worldviews that are self-defeating and non-self-sustaining is that we don't actually have to do anything. We could just wait them out, but they're getting aggressive. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They're getting aggressive. If they weren't getting aggressive, we just continue to wait them out and let them die off over time like we had been. Problem is, now they're getting aggressive, and now our translations are much better over Farsi and Arabic and the Quran. And we're starting to learn things about the Quran that's like, it is saying some things that their blood people are allowed to do to their non-blood people that are immoral by any other standards. And it's like everyone else in the world is basically sheep for them to do whatever they want with. So in their view, they're not doing anything wrong by lying to us and telling us that their religion doesn't say that. They're not doing anything wrong by red rumming our families, by doing horrible acts to our women, by ruining our children. They're not, like, it's not evil in their mind because we're just a thing. We don't have souls.
Well, it goes a step further than that if you really get into the ideology, but their God and their belief actually hates creation and would destroy all of creation to recreate a creation that he could then hate and have this conflict with, and their salvation is by in a sense, like earning enough gold stars that he no longer hates you so much that you get a certain level of salvation. So like even to them, their own lives are meaningless until they give it meaning, right? So it's a complete contradiction to any Abrahamic religion, really.
Well, let me ask you guys this: are you guys aware of a guy named Raymond Ibrahim? He has a YouTube channel, and he's the leading authority on like the Islamic world and the history of Islam. If you are not aware of this guy, you really should check this guy out, because he's now straightening out what the bent history that we've been taught about Islam. Even the term, the Islam, the Brotherhood of Peace, that George Bush Jr. was the one who coined that and entered that into the zeitgeist. Prior to that, they're not. In fact, most of like the original Christian world, like the Middle East and Morocco, all the way over to Syria, right, and Turkey, that was all like Christianity. That was all based in the Orthodox Christian Church, and then through basically wars and like convert or die, and like even in the Hadiths, man, they talk about like the jizya or something like that. It's where if you don't convert, you have to pay a tax to the Muslim.
Yeah, you're talking about the jizya, which is only allowed for Christians and not even Jewish people. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, bro. Right? And this guy goes into it. If you got the time, I suggest you check out his channel. Not only that, he's a world-leading scholar too. Like, it's not like this guy's some dude. He went to Georgetown. He worked in what was it? The State Department at one point, because he was also a historian that was guiding like our intelligence agencies over there in the Middle East, because for the most part, nobody knows nothing about these people other than, they had oil under the sand, and that's about the extent that the West knew, right? So if you do get the chance, his name is Raymond Ibrahim. Guy's phenomenal. And he's a good speaker.
Is he the guy that was basically saying like the Quran and Islam itself is basically like Sun Tzu's Art of War in religious format?
He has suggested that. He
I'll
wrote
say
that.
it.
Well,
I
he
won't
wrote
suggest it.
He's got a few books. He wrote Two Swords of Christ, I think, or The Sword and the Scimitar, I think, is another book. What we know in the West of the Muslims and the, we'll say, Islamic religion is complete falsehood, and that they, by means of covert action, and then of course, death and murder, like they're killing all the Christians and Catholics in Africa all over the place, right? Anywhere they move in, they kill anyone that's not of the faith. He points it out, and he's got it historically documented. He talks about like the First Crusade, and we were sold that the First Crusade was the Christians going into the Middle East and taking over. That's absolute falsehood. The First Crusade was the fact that the Muslims were fighting and taking over and dominating lands, going into Romania, and then they were heading towards Switzerland. They had taken over the Iberian Peninsula, Spain. So, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They even called them a different name at the time. They were called the Moors at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were slaughtering people that were of a specific religion that they chose to slaughter.
Yeah, I'm not real sure.
It wasn't like they were.
Yeah, I'm not real sure how we got onto the topic of Muslims. We've been going down this rabbit trail for a little bit now. Last I knew, we were talking about how men and women have increasingly not depended upon each other. So,
We we migrated
kind of off.
We migrated from 2 to 3, and then from 3 to 4.
Oh, are we on 4?
We kind of touched on 4 some, the whole I don't owe anyone anything mentality that a lot of people have right now.
Sure.
And then I think we kind of meandered at that point. I may have derailed, to be honest. I'm not sure.
You're good. You're good. I just I do need to get going before too much longer, but I wasn't sure how we got onto the topic. So go ahead, General.
Well, I think everything is so intertwined and nuanced as well. You know, like the makeup of our society today has so many like facets to it. And there's so many influences that are at play here. And like I said earlier on, that our country lacks like a common vision. And that if you have common vision, you have a cohesive society. But we don't have a cohesive society. So like the problems within our relationships between men and women, this all is like tracking to like all these different pressures within our society. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I think it's, you know, a way to put it anyways.
Yeah. It's one big spider web. Unfortunately, it all kind of intertwines, but so like I said, I do need to probably wrap up before too much longer. So was there anything else that we wanted to just talk about on that subject real fast before we wrap up? No. Okay.
It's all the Jews. No, I'm joking.
All the Jews,
I think
man.
The only thing I'd say.
Go ahead.
The only thing I could say about any of the topics that we've talked about is for you to be able to gain an understanding of another ideology or anything like that, you're going to have to get past your preconceived notion that your perception of your perceived reality, which is projected by your brain, is the right one.
Right.
Excellent. That's a really good way to put that, because it's all about perception in the end, right?
Yep.
And if those perceptions can be influenced, that can change the way you perceive the world completely.
And they have been greatly.
Oh, yeah. So, with that being said, probably go ahead and finish her up. We'll start up in, like I said before, I like to let anybody shout their channel or anything that you'd like to shout out. Shout it out. We'll start up in the right-hand corner with General Butler there. Go ahead and shout anything that you'd like to shout out or anything like that.
I don't have a channel or anything, but like I didn't even know channels like this existed. I was invited to this by a friend of mine, Batman.
Nice.
And I'm really impressed by the people that are in here, because a lot of times you go into a Discord, man, like people don't even talk, and if they do talk, it's about just senseless, mindless crap. You know, this is really actually intellectual. I like it.
Well, thanks.
Stimulating.
I am really trying to change the scene a little bit. I'm seeing an increasingly amount of people that are craving that conversation, not the blood sports debates. They're fun, but there's need for this type of conversation. So I appreciate you coming and joining the panel. We have these every Thursday night, same time. You're always welcome to come back and join the panel. As we grow, we'll want to make sure that everybody can speak their piece, but definitely appreciate the insights that you've had on the show tonight. I like to give an option, like some people will shout other people's channels out. Like there's some people that'll like to shout out like Rob Knorr or Chris Lestrange. Those are also good streamers. So if you have a streamer that you'd like to promote, feel free to shout them out too. Okay. Well, like I said, you're always welcome to come back. Feel free to hit the Discord any chance that you get. In the welcome sprouts where you first showed up, you have full access to that channel. Feel free to chat with everybody and get yourself leveled up, and then you'll have full access to the Discord. And we have voice channels. We have movie nights. We have Bible study. Well, Bible read on Monday night. So anything that you'd like to join in, feel free to hit me or one of the mods up, and we can get you set up. But again, you're welcome back. And
I absolutely will.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else that you wanted to say? Okay.
No.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you coming in again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and have a good blessed night, man.
You too. Stay safe, gentlemen.
Yeah, you too.
And lady.
All right. And
God bless,
then,
thank you.
what was that, Leia? Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry, I was just saying bye and God bless.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So Cleaner, did you have anything that you wanted to shout out before we wrap up? Is there any channel or anything?
No, sir. I do appreciate the platform that you're making here, and it's been a little while for me to be able to get over and really interact with people. I've been listening behind the scenes for a little bit,
All right.
but I really appreciate what you're trying to build. Someplace where people can talk a little bit, get some things out, have the conversations, and say the words that actually need to be said that no one else is saying. Identify the things,
That's right.
It's a good thing.
Thank you. I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you giving me the support. Every time I hear somebody say that it's a good place, it makes me feel good because seriously, I didn't know what I was doing when I started this. I didn't really think it was going to do anything. So I'm really glad it's taken the route that it's been taking. Was there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up, Cleaner?
No, sir. I do appreciate it. I had a lot of fun and good intellectual stimulation in this conversation.
Nice.
I really appreciate the different viewpoints, and thank you for allowing me to share mine as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you're always welcome to come back. I appreciate the differing views myself, so I appreciate you coming on, and you have a blessed night. Batman, did you have anything you want to shout out?
No, just shout out this channel, like, subscribe if you haven't.
Right on.
Shout out to Barry Step channel.
Right on. Barry Step channel. Is that what you said?
Yes, it's BARRYST. I think it's STAPP.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. What kind of content? Just out of curiosity.
It's like conspiracy stuff.
Oh, okay. Cool. Right on.
Ooh,
Yeah.
tinfoil hats.
What was that, Leah? Sorry.
Sorry, I was saying, ooh, tinfoil hats. It's fun.
Right. It's always interesting.
Always fun.
Right on. Well, yeah.
Aliens are real.
Appreciate the shout out. Was there anything else that you wanted to shout out, say, or anything like that?
No, I just appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, heck yeah. I appreciate you. And like I said before, you're always welcome to come back. And you have a blessed night. We'll move down to Leia next. You go ahead and shout your channel out.
Oh well, I just have a little channel. It's Leah Bobia, same thing my name would appear as in chat. Had a recent debate. It's a bit of a shit show. I don't really have any other word for it. I feel like I could have argued a little better, but I also feel like I was a little bit undermatched, more so than I thought. But otherwise, it was a pretty interesting conversation. If nothing else, very entertaining from what I hear. So
Right.
you could check that out. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe, share with a friend, help Tater with some grift, and definitely show him all the support for bringing us together for these conversations.
Right on. I appreciate that, Leia. Yeah, and I will be covering that debate that Leia did on my Sunday coming up stream. So be sure to tune in for that because that'll be an interesting experience there. Was there anything else you wanted to shout out, Leia?
No, I think I'm pretty much good. Thanks as always for having me. I always appreciate it.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, again, you're always welcome to come back and you have yourself a blessed night. And Heaven Maxed, you're welcome to. Yeah, heck yeah. Thank you. And then Heaven Maxed, you're welcome to shout anything out that you'd like to shout out.
Okay, awesome. I still have yet to create any kind of a channel or presence outside of here, so I will give all my comeuppance and appreciation towards you, Tater, and of course the mods in the background. Dave and Allie have been brilliant today, and I just want to thank the moderation team and you, Tater, and all the rest of you guys for talking and having good faith conversations.
Heck yeah. Right on. I appreciate the shout out. Appreciate the engagement and coming on to the panel and giving your insight. Was there anything else that you wanted to shout out before I take off?
No, yeah, just always love to shout out the mods. You know, they do work really hard, just like you do. You know, and I just want to make sure everyone gets their awareness because I do appreciate everyone's involvement. It's much, the more you get involved, the more you realize how much work everyone's putting into it.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. Is I will constantly shout out my mod team because they're an amazing bunch of men. But they do a lot for me. They really do. So I appreciate you giving them the shout out as well. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and just dip out. You guys are welcome to sit and chat if you want, take off if you want, whatever you want to do. But again, you're always welcome to come back to the panels. And you guys have yourself a blessed night, all right? All right, guys. And that pretty much brings my stream to my close. So, as always, please take care of yourselves. Remember your Second Amendment rights within the United States. Your response time will always be faster than that of the police. And I, for one, want to keep you all around. Those outside of the United States, of course, as always, stop giving up your rights. They're important. You're important. As always, me, the potato, trying to find my music. But Christ is God, King of Kings, and always will be. And you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me. And I appreciate that more than I will ever be able to tell you guys. So you have yourselves a good night. God bless and take care. Maybe. There we go.
Barrels roll, the tide runs red. We drank our fear, we left it dead. Captain lied, now he's overboard. Took his crown and split the horde. Hear that drum, the storm's begun. Rum on our tongues, revenge in our lungs. Raise the mug high for the lost and the damned. Beat that drum, let the sea understand. We sail for blood, not glory or fame. Rum and revenge, that's our name. Chains for the rich, gold for the poor. We trade our sins on a crimson shore. Every wave's got a ghost we knew, and every oath we swore was true. Yeah, cannonball heart, boom through the dark. Tattooed stars like maps on a bark. Ain't no heaven for a man like me. Just a ship, a gun, and a burning sea. Raise the mug for the lost and the damned. Beat that drum, let the sea understand. We sail for blood, not glory or fame. Rum and revenge, that's our name. That's our name. Raise the mug high. Oh. 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 Raise the mug high. Oh. Wind howls low, black sails bend. We toast the night to rum and revenge.